Let me tell you about what I'm going to be breaking down for you today. There's a gentleman named Rob's Media. He's mostly a drama channel. However, he does do excellent video essays on the Twitch and YouTube political space. And so I want to watch one of his videos that's criticizing the far left. For those of you who are live, you already know that I've spent the past 24 hours criticizing the far right. And so I need a little bit of a drama palate cleanser in order to maintain balance in the force and restore my sanity and hope in humanity. So without further ado, this is Rob's Media breaking down why he hates the far left video essayists collectively known as Breadtubers.
Breadtube, a loose and informal group of online content creators who create video content, including video essays and live streams, from socialist, social democratic, communist, anarchist, and other left-wing perspectives. I've been covering some of the antics from Breadtube over the past year, and I think now is the perfect time I do one big video going over my issues with these people. 6 issues to be exact, starting with 1. They're fake nice guys. A lot of these Breadtubers build a persona revolving around them being wholesome and empathetic to those around them. However, there are many times that the mask slips, and their true colors come out. Many are just as hateful as the people they criticize. The only difference is that they are much less self-aware and act two-faced. This also makes them morally inconsistent, which will be a common theme throughout this video. The most widespread example of this is how these creators align themselves with the body positivity movement, yet at every opportune moment, they'll make fun of someone's physical attributes, and I think it's fine to make fun of a public figure's appearance. My problem is the hypocrisy. My favorite case of this is with Jake Doolittle, who's made numerous videos on this topic. He spends half of his Fatspo video criticizing a 16-year-old girl with an eating disorder for saying mean things about fat people. He could have literally picked anybody else, but okay. He then made a video on Orange Peanut, a troll YouTuber who's made numerous videos goofing on fat acceptance TikTokers. This video from Jake ruffles some feathers, because many of his criticism of Peanut is just him making fun of his appearance and his stutter.
Like, I understand that this guy is accepting of his, I don't know, armpit bruises. I agree. Maybe he could tell us how he's so confident in his small build. What's it like being 5'1"?
Yes.
Based. Listen. Everyone in my chat has a 3,000 IQ. Everyone in my chat is a Giga Chad or Giga Stacy. Everyone in my chat is well endowed in their own, in their own way. So, we don't deal with this problem in Counterpoints, okay? However, I feel like if you're going to be mean towards somebody's aesthetics, you just have to go all the way. And if you have like a crazy lefty chat that's going to cancel you for attacking somebody's aesthetics, then you just kind of need to change venues, right? You can't break to the woke scolds. That's what we used to call them a few years ago. John Maynard Keynes says, what does left and right even mean? That's actually an important question that I've addressed several times. So I'll try to be brief about it. But during the French Revolution, the left side were the people who were pro-reform, the Jacobins, the pro-people who were anti-monarchist. And on the right were the institutionalists who supported the monarchy and supported the social institutions of the day. So what that's come to be, mean in society, relatively speaking, is that left tends to be more for the people, more for social reform, and more for progress, whereas the right tends to be institutionalists, conservatives, and traditionalists who are trying to maintain the status quo as maximally as possible. And there's a tension between these two groups that kind of allows society to progress, but not too far. And that's actually like a concept of conservatism brought up by Edmund Burke. Now, these terms have gotten so loose that left just means, communists now, and right just means fascists who love Trump. So obviously the terms are a bit broken, but I try to re-emphasize the origin of the terms as maximally as possible because I'm trying to get people to understand, no, there are philosophical roots under these ideas that you could actually pay attention to if you wanted to. Addressing chat because I don't want you guys to feel lonely. Whatever 4690 says, I remember one day I had a day when I didn't care about anyone but myself, then suddenly communism seemed more appealing. Well, yeah, who doesn't want to be a bed blob and have the state take care of your basic human needs so you can sit around and become a SoundCloud rapper? Why not? Azrai says, hey, chat, what's the best way to do mashed potatoes? I'm pretty sure you boil potatoes for a long time, then you smash them with, one of those potato mashers, and then you put 10 pounds of butter and salt into it. Pretty sure that's how you do it. King Saldus says, I'm a right-wing communist. Well, that's just a fascist, brother. Gen X says, I just found the Discord link from last week, and it says it's not a valid link. Does it change or something? I think so. I'll generate one for you guys. Don't worry about it. All of you are now a product of the state. Indeed. Ta Wijdo says, I hate YouTube essayist cadence. Also, this guy has a speech impediment. Please talk over this. Well, hopefully I gave you a nice little break from his cadence. Wowman542 says, I'm a gigabot. Behold my power. All right, indeed. Now, last one, and then I'm going to get back into it. Bum number one says, what we used to call, these were social justice warriors. Woke scolds came later. Agreed. So while we're here, I'll go, just because there's that one guy who doesn't like video essayist cadence, I'm going to go ahead and pull up the Discord. I'm going to disable streamer mode, and I'm going to get you guys a link. But if you're not into me breaking down a video essay, then I'm sorry, but we're here for a hot minute, okay? This is a 40-minute video. I'm probably going to double or triple the runtime. So if this isn't your speed, sorry about it. Go find another one of your favorite YouTubers or streamers and watch them, because I'm in here for the long haul. And every time I see, no offense, like I'm not trying to talk shit about anybody who is complaining about video essayists, but I can't cater to the whims of any individual in chat. I have to pick a content direction and roll with it.
They do. I went through a bulk and a cut cycle. When I was bulking, I got very big because I ate a lot. And when
Why do you say yes, they do like that?
yes, they do. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. I
Yes,
went
they
through
do.
a bulk and a cut.
You know, making fun of my speech isn't very woke of you. It's not very politically correct. This is the exact same thing that Nick is not green did. He made fun of my stutter. I don't know why, but all these people who preach like acceptance, political correctness, wokeness, they do the same things at the end of the day. It's just they only do it when it benefits them and they know their audience is going to like it. Everybody is a piece of shit at the end of the day. It's just a matter of how.
As Peanut just said, Nick is not green did the same thing, while also discussing body positivity and acceptance.
I'm not forcing women to talk about anything. And as far as boobs go, we like boobs. We don't talk about them for 3 hours straight.
Both of these guys will get ratioed in the comments, because their more normal fans hate it when they do this crap. Though Jake turned off the comments and edited out part of the video that made him look bad, that being the weird consent comment.
There's a possibility that you can't do certain things, like bench an unconsenting girl, right, Orange Peanut?
Huh? You want to repeat that one for me, Jake? We went from nice, lighthearted roasts about appearances and background and content to all of a sudden you're accusing me of not caring about consent of girls? What the fuck is wrong with you? No, genuinely.
Again, there's that mask slip. Another problem.
All right, this has nothing to do with the video. I had tea. We ran out of Diet Coke, so I don't. Coffee gives me heartburn, so I got tea, and I just spilled 80% of my tea. I was waiting to cool down all over my fucking keyboard, so I basically want to kill myself right now. Anyways, this is just some hypocrisy about them being fake nice guys. I'm not gonna lie. I kind of don't care, but I think Noah Samson is the most egregious person, and I see him 1 minute away where he is the most obnoxious looking lacrosse player with a pedo stash I've ever seen in my entire life. And basically, I'm excited to watch whatever part of that is. So I'm just going to let it flow, fellas and gals. Hannah Morell asked for my PayPal. Oh, sorry. Were we not watching this together? Did I smash a button that accidentally took it off screen? Classic Classic pro streamer move. Thanks, Connor. Doing great. Cooking with the content. God, what a dick. I'm talking about myself. Hannah Morell says, what's your PayPal? I just linked my PayPal in chat. Thanks, Hannah Morell. I'm going to go ahead and blame you for spilling my tea. Anyways. Oh, now it's like sopping onto the floor. Holy shit. I'm just kicking so much ass today. I'm just doing so good. I'm going to have to go get a towel in a second. Fuck me. Anyways. So Ethan is online, for those of you who don't know, has transitioned recently to Eden. And this isn't like a huge indictment. Obviously, we got, trans members of the community, et cetera, et cetera. We love you. Don't worry about it. But what I will notice is that sometimes trans creators will be hypercritical of people in their aesthetics. But then what will happen is if you criticize their appearance whatsoever, because they're transitioning and they're in a precarious aesthetic position, they will oftentimes not take that criticism very well. And so my advice to trans creators is that if you feel like you're in an aesthetically compromising position where you're transitioning from one gender to another and you're not quite fully maximizing your aesthetic to the point that you would want to do it, I would just say, don't make fun of other people's looks, because obviously the most obvious and hurtful thing that people can do is turn around and make fun of your looks. So John Maynard Keen says, but I also love the people. I just love everything. Well, that's good, man. RC says, how are we all doing? Been a while. Hey, good morning, RC. Good to see you. J-Man says, butter and cream. Yeah, there you go. And Milk says, conserve liberalism for the potatoes. Boat Knight says, you can put sour cream into mashed potatoes. Excellent. Conserve liberalism says, if you're making mashed potatoes without milk, you're fucking up. All right, excellent. Discord is a cesspool. That's true. I'll get you a Discord link momentarily. Tawijdo says, whoa. SoundCloud producers, real art. True. But it's better than X. King Solida says, okay, I'm done. I'm bored. Well, sorry, son. The Weird World of Guy says, hi, here from Destiny Channel. Really like you. Good. Happy to have you. Welcome aboard. J-Man says, I'm a MySpace rapper. Excellent. What's so hard about that? Nothing. It just takes a minute to explain. Brandon Zero says, Connor, I'm still confused, Connor. Can't you just pin a comment? You don't know how to do it? No, stop asking me to do things. You're asking me for my PayPal. I spill my tea. You're asking me for my Discord. I'm going to spill my tea again. You're asking me to pin a comment. No, I'm going to pin a comment to my ass. How about that? All right. Stop asking me to do things. We're here to enjoy content together. Is that not why we're here together as a community? To hang out, have fun, watch some stupid YouTube essays, pause it every 5 minutes, make fun of it a little bit? Is that not what we're here for? That's what I'm here for. You guys are fucking wilding out in chat asking for a laundry list of shit. Holy fuckballs. Hadoman says you could just take Adderall and speak at 1.5 speed. Okay, I'll do that. Thanks for the suggestion. Holy fuck. All right, I'm done taking suggestions from chat, by the way. You got your half dozen suggestions in, and I am covered in tea. Oh my God. Dead air my ass. All right, I am mad today. Thank you, JetX. Thank you for noticing. All right. My fucking tea is currently dripping onto my lap. So guess what? You get to listen to this dude talk in a normal cadence about random freaks on the internet who care about whether or not you make fun of somebody's appearance, but they themselves are hypocrites. So enjoy that for the next minute while I go get a fucking towel. Holy shitballs.
Used to be heavier, dickhead. But it's you don't fucking change overnight.
On me, Ethan. Now you're the one getting mad.
You literally were just like, do something about it. Fuck off, asshole. It's mean. You're mean. When you talk about weight shit, you're mean, and I don't like it.
By the way, this dude flat out lied. He looked like this when he started YouTube. Noah Samson is another breadtuber I've covered before who's also made fun of people's appearances and mannerisms, but there are even bigger examples of this dude being two-faced. He definitely portrays himself as a calm, understanding individual, just sticking up for disenfranchised groups, but this moral high ground he stands on is just for show. On Twitter, he's made multiple death threats, though if asked, he'll just explain it as jokes like they always do. First is after he lost a debate to Vosh, with him liking a tweet where someone wanted Vosh to be put down like a dog. Then, during the SuperMega drama, Noah wanted Chud Logic to be melted into a large cast iron cauldron. And by the way, the pedophile part is borderline slander. Even Keffels and Xanderhall, who both hate Chud Logic, don't think Chud is a pedo.
Chud Logic and all, he is not a pedophile though. I am very familiar with the drama that happened where people tried to slander him as a pedo. I even spoke to him in private about that drama when it was going down and got like the all the screenshots and info and everything, he's not a pedo.
Here's where I'll make a correction from the last time I talked about Noah. I stated that this tweet was what got him banned from Twitter, but what really got him banned was this tweet describing how he killed Elon Musk. This is the same guy making videos of this crappy bisexual lighting, ironically wearing maid outfits, by the way. These guys don't fool me. They're fake nice guys who take advantage of their viewers. Leading us to our next point. 2. They weaponize their audience. I've seen many instances of BreadTubers using their audience as either a sword or a shield. For instance, they'll use them as a suitable defense against opposition, or to attack and harass those they deem irredeemable. My favorite example of the former is definitely the Balenciaga scandal, which I went over more in detail in my denims video. Basically,
All right. I love this moment. I love this one. All right. Tea. Partially cleaned. Tea is now cold enough to drink. So let me take a sip. Oh man, despite having spilled 80% of it, that's still good shit. Okay. Despite being furious, let's try to respond to what's actually gone on screen. So far, he's established that several breadtubers and lefttubers or whatever make fun of people's aesthetics, even though they themselves, typically go against that kind of thing. You know, they're nice guys, all that kind of stuff, and yet they're hypocrites. All right, we got it. Then they talked about the Vosh drama, where Noah Samson talked out of turn about various dramas with which he was not aware. The Chud Logic drama, for those of you who don't know, I'm actually a fan of Chud. Chud Logic is just a drama YouTuber at this point. He covers politics every now and then, but to be honest, it's very haphazard. Chud Logic was accused of being a groomer and a pedophile, but the evidence supporting it wasn't there. He had a 33-year-old woman with whom he was flirting in Discord DMs, and if you're getting groomed as a 33-year-old, you just need to quit life. Just being real. Then there was a 17-year-old that he was flirting with on Discord, but the 17-year-old lied about their age and said they were an adult, and basically as soon as Chud Logic figured out that they were 17, he stopped the relationship or stopped the conversation. So Chud Logic, not a pedophile, very funny, drama YouTuber, go watch his shit, even though he's an asshole. Then when it comes to the Balenciaga drama, I'm actually just going to let Rob's media describe it, but it's actually one of the most like self-inflicted wounds of the far left ever. Gen X says burp on stream like Hutch does. No, stop telling me what to do. Whatever 4690 says sticky keyboard. I hate you guys. Black tea. Yes, I get 2 black bags of tea and then I put them in together. I put in, I basically make a latte. Okay. I got milk. I got sugar. Yep. I hate you guys. Boat Knight says Diet Coke tastes like battery acid. Diet Pepsi is where it's at. I like the cancer. C-Dub says womp womp. Was it a rainbow light keyboard? No. It's a very cheap $50 plug-in keyboard. Coffee gives you heartburn. What am I, gay? No, I'm old. Oh, so he is mad. Sorry for the tea spill. No, I'm furious. I'm seething, right? I am furious. Bum number 1 says, I'm sorry I joked about you breaking down not the video, but in general and manifested it into reality. It's okay. You guys are asking for too much, and I am insufficiently caffeinated. Brandon Zero says, Connor, is 2025. Use the touchscreens of your monitors. You don't need keyboards anymore. Stop giving me suggestions now. All right? Stop suggesting me things. Okay? Discord link, please. I'll do the Discord link because you asked that before the PayPal link. But besides that, y'all need to fucking sink or swim, all right? You need to use Google. Go to google.com and say, what does left and right mean? What's the best way to make mashed potatoes? How do I get into the Counterpoints Discord? How do I donate to Counterpoints on PayPal? You're just gonna have to kick it boomer style and Google shit. I know that's unfair, but I spilled my tea and I'm very angry about it. All right. Anyways, let me check in with a few more chats before we move on, just because I do, as pissed off as I am, I want to treat my audience with some dignity and grace. Keyboard condom, I hate you. Herkimer, keyboard condom. Oh my God, I hate you. Tajuedo, If you say dead air one more time, I swear to God, I'm gonna find you. I'm gonna find you, and I'm gonna smash your balls with a hammer. I don't care if that's TOS. Boat Night says Red Rose Orange Peke is basically free office tea, but it's all I like. Okay. Sun Patty says actually Connor is not allowed to clean it up. He must stream to us while the tea seeps into his stuff. Yep. I'm enjoying Connor's transition into libtard. Well, glass houses. Yep. Or a thick beard. Yep. All right. Publicly insulting people is just kind of cringe anyways. Nope. No, it's not. Wowman542 says, no blessing goes unpunished. Start the stream with 100 plus viewers, but your keyboard gets fucked up. Yep. Welcome aboard to the 100 plus people that we already have this early in the stream. Could you spill your tea again? No, stop it. Stop it. Stop it. You guys are just fucking with me so you can get me to spurg out like DJ Stick from whatever the shit I just showed you, okay? All right, last comment goes to Oliver in the Twist. Eden versus Nick is not green. Who's the mega soy of the soy boys? Vote in chat. No idea. All right. Continuing on with the Balenciaga drama, the most easily avoidable self-inflicted wound the far left has ever done online.
This fashion company posted some sus marketing photos, one showcasing a document relating to a CP court case, and others showing little girls holding teddy bears that have bondage on. YouTuber Shoeonhead was pretty much the figurehead of this controversy, calling out Balenciaga's actions and giving updates. Breadtubers that she deemed friends, being Xander Hall, Demon Mama, and Denims, called her out for this with very bizarre reasonings. They all tried downplaying the controversy, while at the same time insisting it would negatively affect the LGBTQ community. This had nothing to do with queer people, yet they for some reason insisted that this will give conservatives fodder to spread hate. They don't realize that they are the ones giving them fodder by even implying gay people have something to do with this.
So Xander Hall says, Shoeonhead on her way to once again use her massive platform to provide the neo-Nazis in her audience with fodder they can use to justify the murder of gay people. But this time, one day after an anti-gay terror attack. By the way, fucking based Xander Hall. Can we get some motherfucking hypers in chat for Xander Hall having the balls and the spine and the Giga Chat energy to be a real trans ally? Because unironically, that's what it looks like. Xander Hall out here fucking spitting and showing you all how it's done.
Calm.
All right. So for those of you who don't know, there was I think it was a club in Denver that got shot up, and it was around like Pride Month. I think it was like June of last year before, something like that. Could be 2 or 3 years old now at this point, just because time flies by so fast. And so as a result, the drama had nothing to do with that. The anti-gay terror attack, okay, no, that happened. It's fucked up. Everybody thinks it's fucked up. I'm sure even if you ask Shoeonhead and her fucked up, Christian nationalist husband who just posts endless Trump cope on Twitter, I'm sure that they would even say it was fucked up, right? So nobody agrees with the terrorist attack. But simultaneous to that, we find out that Balenciaga, the high-end fashion design people, they have a court case document that talks about, child porn being banned, and that's put into the back of an advertisement. And then separate, there's a photo shoot involving kids that has alcoholic beverage containers with kids holding teddy bears that are covered in bondage gear. And it's like, that's the most pedo shit I've ever seen anybody do. And honestly, there must have been, like, during the medieval ages when we were doing witch burnings, we must have missed a few, right? Like we should have found some more witches to fucking burn because we clearly didn't get all of them, right? And so Demon Mama and Xander Hall, in their infinite political intelligence, decide that this attack on Balenciaga, the fashion brand, is actually an attack on the gay community. And so as a result, they jump on a massive rake and start calling Shoeonhead like anti-gay because she called out Balenciaga. And I'm pretty sure like anybody with an IQ over 80 was like, why the fuck are you doing this? Why are you defending a fashion brand making pedo rage bait marketing and then tying it to a gay massacre? Is that not the absolute worst optical thing you could do? Now, on one hand, Demon Mama, we had a good debate one time a while ago, and I've been nice to her since. And then we haven't talked that much because we don't swim in the same circles. But what's actually sad, you know, I expect chat to have some ripperonis for this one. Demon Mama stopped uploading content 8 months ago. I'm presuming she got a real job and moved on. And also looks like her last live was 9 months ago as well. So realistically, Demon Mama is no longer a part of the Twitch and YouTube political scene. And if you don't remember from the Destiny memes, because some of you are like new Destiny fans, right? Destiny, are you mad? 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 This meme came from a Demon Mama debate, I guess 4 years ago. Here we go. So this was Steven at his maximum power level. This wasn't quite Nebraska Steve, but this was like 80% Steve. This was like Kyle Rittenhouse Steve, where Demon Mama was trying to be an asshole about something, and then Steven just goes full asshole. So let's watch Steven at 80% power.
Sound mad, right? When you scream over and over again, are you mad? 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 You know that just makes you sound really mad, right?
Destiny.
You know that every time you make one of these dumb faces, you're like,
Destiny.
like you're literally the comic you're the Wojak guy who's like, I'm not mad, you're mad, okay? So anyway, my original point. Wait, how many of these faces do you have memorized for stream?
Wait.
I
forgot.
Wait, hold on, let me do it. What?
Are you all right?
Wait,
Like,
are you still mad?
Okay, first.
Wait, hold on, wait. What?
Dude,
what?
Hey, listen. Hey, Destiny, this is great memes. I don't actually know what's wrong with you at the moment.
Wait.
You actually seem unhinged.
Okay, so
Yeah.
this
but
conversation.
All right. Anyways, if you want to watch that, watch it on your own. But it was classic Destiny memes. I know the volume was a little bit low, but I'm maxed out on my end. But classic Demon Mama debate. Couple of chats before we move on. I am behind in chat, so if you want me to read your chat specifically, then go ahead and do @Counterpoints. Liberty. Yeah, that's why I'm angry. I spilled my liberty. Christian Blair says, covered in tea, pinning stuff to his ass. What will Connor do next? Lots of stuff, man. Lots of stuff. Then First Wave says, Connor is really acting like Destiny right now. Listen, I'm sorry. I'm pissed. I didn't get sufficient caffeine, and then, you know, I'm falling apart. What? Yeah, I plugged it, baby. They have the capacity to no, I'm going to talk to you. Can I please have hot water refill with this? Because I spilled my tea because Hannah Morell asked me to plug my PayPal.
She did?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So I spilled my tea.
Good.
God. Everybody's just giving me shit today. Bud123 says, coffee is the drink of the Sensuous Grill hottest revolutionaries. Listen. If you guys have iron stomachs, go for coffee. I don't give a shit. I'm old as hell, though, so I actually just have to dial it in. You guys have to understand, like, I'm pretty much 40 at this point. So if I'm pretty much 40, then everything I do right now is going to give me the cancer that I'm going to have in 20 years. Boku Haram says, Chud is fair. And indeed he is. Val says, my thing about transitioning, you should probably wait until you're somewhat passing before coming out. I mean, it's a pragmatic appeal. Trans people do whatever you want, all right? If you want to, you know, still have a beard and wear a dress and all that kind of shit, and you want to go, I'm a femme presenting person with masculine hair, do whatever the fuck makes you happy, right? But I'm just saying, if you're going to attack people based on looks, we live in a liberal society where what's good for the goose is good for the gander. People will turn around and attack you on looks. So, you know, if you do something, expect it to be done to you. Thank you, baby. Herkimer says, I don't know who that is, but that mustache is nasty. Yeah, Noah Samson has a pedo stash for sure. Anyways, back to the content.
Down, dog. It's just a shitty Patrick Bateman meme. Basically, these people are waiting for a good opportunity to shit on Shoe on Head, as I don't like the fact that she goes after both sides in videos. The user audiences, which are filled with lots of queer people, to attack someone else by manipulating them into thinking the scandal will negatively affect them in any way. Vosh would use a similar tactic earlier this year, when his special folder got leaked live on stream.
You can see this is an example of the kind of structure that I'm referring to.
If you somehow don't know what...
Okay. Listen, DGGers, I love you. Thank you for being here. We're up to 140 people. I parasocially love you. Please like the stream, super chats if you got them, you know, PayPal if you got them, all that kind of stuff, right? However, I'm going to explain this to you. We're going to take time out of our day in order to explain this to you because I see 3 different comments about how I'm consuming my tea. 2 bag, fuck it. I'm going full screen. I like my coffee with lots of cream and lots of sugar. However, I'm very old and so it hurts my tummy. And so what I do is 2 bags of black tea. All right. I have 2 Irish teas right here. Okay. And then the water is hot, but I want to drink my coffee or my tea. So I don't want to spend 10 hours waiting for it to cool. And when I drink it, I don't want to burn my mouth. So what I do is I take cold milk and I put it on top of my tea and effectively making it like a light latte with a decent amount of caffeine, but it's not going to hurt my little sensitive tummy. Okay. And then I take sugar and then I put it in there because I don't want to taste like burnt, dead tree butthole. That's not, I don't like drinking burnt tea tree butthole. That's not why God put me on this earth. And then I put it in a glass versus a mug because a mug retains heat. It keeps it hotter for longer, but I'm not interested in burning my mouth. I'm interested in drinking my beverage. So I put it in a glass so the heat radiates faster away from my beverage so it is capable of being consumed faster. And that is the last time that I'm going to take feedback about my tea. Thank you, Brit Bongers, for your attention.
What he had on there. It was AI generated images involving horses and little girls, doing some pretty disgusting things. When Ethan Klein and other YouTubers called him out for being a lolly enjoyer, he clapped back with this.
I like the part where he said this is a pedophile community. Yeah, did he say that with regards to there being a lot of transgenders here? Is that what he meant? Curious.
It's not a pedo community because trans people are part of it. It's because parts of your audience are defending the fact that you're sexually attracted to kids, and have made numerous arguments for why CP should be legal.
So, you know, there's pedophiles.
Listen, we're going to defend Vosh real quick, okay? All of the cartoon drawings that he was looking at was of post-pubescent teenagers, okay? He's an ephebophile. He's a zoophilic ephebophile, all right? Not a pedophile. Just want to make that clear. So the libertarians understand that he's actually a real libertarian socialist. Sorry, 1 second.
Pedophiles, right, who buy child pornography. Would you say they should not be held responsible for doing that?
Yes.
Really? Even though they're directly supporting child rape?
Yeah. I think it's hypocritical. If I because I bought my computer and the silicon in it was farmed in Africa by slaves. If I can do that and that's legal and no one's going to call me out my shit, then yeah, I have to be consistent in that respect.
No, you don't. No, you don't, Vosh. This is very old Vosh memes, but for those of you who don't understand, the line of argumentation is that because we have exploitative supply chains when it comes to coffee, chocolate, computers, etc. Therefore, the production of child pornography also has inherent exploitation in it. And so the line of argumentation is Vosh, in order to be edgy and get attention, is trying to say like, well, I'm not condemning capitalists for using exploitative supply chains. Therefore, I can't condemn consumers of child pornography. And what I actually like about, there was some conservative video essayist or criticizer who was like, you know what we can just do? We can just say that one involves fucking kids and we can leave it there. And we don't have to overanalyze the situation. And we can just say that that's objectively evil regardless of consequence. And anybody who's sweeping for it is a bad person who shouldn't have moral consideration. I actually like the Giga Chad lack of analysis. I know that might cut contrary to some of the DGG folks, but I'm perfectly okay with following some of your repulsive instincts. Matter of fact, I'm going to go ahead and say this is one of my frustrations with the DGG hyper-rationalization is sometimes your instincts are correct. And sometimes you don't need a 50 IQ, or not 50 IQ, a 200 IQ analysis of whether or not you can do something disgusting. As an example, if I told you that eating poop was bad, you shouldn't have to go, well, do you have any studies? Do you have anything to back up your assertion? Is this a moral claim or merely a medical claim? Is this a scientific claim? What's your source on the fact that eating poop is bad? How about if you walk out there and you see a dog turd on the side of the road, you just leave it the fuck alone because you have an impulse to say, oh yeah, that's repulsive. Let's not touch that. And probably the reason why is because if you touch that, it's bad for you. Feces might not kill you immediately. It might not even kill you immediately if consumed. However, we know that on the long term, it's probably fucking bad for you. So let's skip the 200 IQ analysis of every single thing under the sun in order to be edgy, in order to justify stupid positions. And let's just go, yeah, that's kind of repulsive. And there's probably a reason why through like natural assumptions that it is repulsive. Therefore, I'm not going to engage in that behavior. It's actually that simple sometimes. Trying to catch up with chat, although I never will. So you guys need to start doing the @counterpoints in chat. John says, Connor, do a handstand. Absolutely not. Brandon Zero says, honest question, can tea be a substitute for coffee? Yes, absolutely. 2 black teas is enough caffeine to at least get my day started. I normally need another cup of tea in the middle of the day, but yes, it's enough to get you started for sure. Azrai says, hey, Google, what's the meaning of life? Fist Wave Negativity says, how can I get my grandson Nathan's house? All right, y'all are getting crazy. All right, since you're getting crazy, I will only be responding to chats going forward that say @counterpoints. I can't respond to all of you. Y'all are saying crazy shit. Some of them are memes, some of them are funny. Y'all entertain each other. I'm going to answer the comments that are actually adding me. Sabian Green says, what's the best way to cook a steak? With a blowtorch. What are we talking about today? It's on the title. Then scrolling. Eric Dom says at Counterpoints, why was it easily avoidable? Are you trying to imply a true leftist could clear the anti-pedo bar? Strangely naive stuff. Yeah, that's my fault for assuming. The reason why it's easily avoidable, I know you're asking just to fuck around, but the reason why it was easily avoidable is, how about the next time that there is something that is pedophilic, don't immediately clutch your pearls and go, why are you attacking the gays? That is a crazy optical strategy. J Afro J says, is it bad that I have never heard the Balenciaga controversy until now? No. It means that I think you're too new. And also, it means that you're probably human and don't swim in the autistic circles that I swim in. So that's good. First wave negativity. Oh my God, are all of your recommendations political slop? First wave negativity. Keep it up. Keep it up. Sacred Snow says, the left will only defend corporations if they're doing pedo shit. Yeah. All right. Anyways, hold on. Let me see, because I'm behind. Yeah. All right. So what I'm going to say is, J Afro, I can tell you were fucking with me. First wave negativity, I can tell you're fucking with me. But I'm a sensitive soul, and this is my community. So keep fucking around too much, and I'm going to time you out. That's what I'm going to say. So don't make fun of me. My stream. Robin Page says, was this Steven during her... Oh, okay. Yeah, there you go. Robin Page. Was this during or after he was hooking up with Lauren Southern? How about fuck you? How about that shit? This is the perfect example. And then I'll go ahead and answer earnestly after that guy can fuck the fuck off. Let's pause for a moment. There's lots of people coming in, and I appreciate you. This is my stream, though. So if you fuck around too much, I'm just going to ban you. That's an example of fucking around too much. I like Steven. As far as I know, I'm friendly with Steven, bordering friends. Okay, we hung out in real life. We shot guns. I bought him a Frosty. He bought me ammunition for the shotguns. We're friends. Okay. Then Lauren has been my internet friend for several years. Lauren got divorced, became a single mom, had Steven as a friend. They became close friends. They had a relationship that obviously was not going to last because she's infinitely more conservative than he is. And then Melina was very pissed at Steven that he didn't confide the full extent and depth of the relationship. So then that caused drama. And as far as I know, that definitely didn't help their relationship and kind of helped to implode their relationship. That was like 2022. So we're talking about 2 or 3 years ago now. Steven had a whole bunch of degenerate, shitty behaviors during that time. But it seems like within the past few years, it seems like there's less and less degenerate shit to point at. So I'm not going to relitigate whether or not Steven is an asshole over and over and over again. Okay? I'm not going to. So how about you extend people some charity and grace during the fucked up moments of their life, and you hope they become better people over time. I would actually love it if Lauren Southern came back to the scene and said, fuck you, all you red pill fucking freaks. Fuck you, all you people who would condemn me for being a single mother because I love the wrong man. I'm going to continue to do political commentary because I feel like I have something to offer the world. I would actually like it if she did that. And then same thing with Steven. Steven fucked up. He's got to pay his consequences, whatever. But I don't think that a man is just his worst actions. Somebody can be more than that. So yeah, so if you come in here and you fucking spurg out and say the most fucked up shit possible, you're gone. I don't have patience for all of you. All right, back into the content. Let's watch Vosh jump on a rake.
Nice false equivalency there, douchebag. The difference is that one product could be made ethically, while the other cannot. Vosh can make the excuse that he's debate-brained all he wants, but that folder and the loads of other evidence that he's into Lolly proves that wrong. It's just gross how he automatically thinks an attack on his defenders is an overall attack on trans people. One of those defenders was Keffels, who in my opinion is way worse than Vosh. It would take too long to cover all the awful things she's done, so I'll summarize it as this. She kept changing the story about her doxing, lied about which website doxed her for more clout, raised $100,000 for a supposed legal case, and then wasted the money on vacation and streaming gear, knew about the grooming that went on in her Discord server, admitted to grooming minors, and promoted a site that sells homemade drugs to minors that has a lolly on the packaging. When Mudahar released his video showcasing the evidence for all of this, Keffels used the ultimate trump card, transphobia. She spread this lie to her audience, stating that Muda used the wrong pronouns in the announcement tweet, and that the art in the thumbnail was transphobic. These claims are retarded as all hell, but Keffels' diehard fans believed it, and started going after Muda. They even made up conspiracy theories for how his wife is some sort of fascist right-winger. Late last year, Jake Doolittle released a hit piece of sorts on Ethan Klein.
Hold on, we can't move on that fast. Good God. All right, so not criticism for Rob's media, but he's obviously hitting all the highlights very quickly. That Keffels thing was a big deal. So for those of you who don't remember, you might have been too new. I'll re-fast forward so we don't have to rewatch it. But Keffels, this girl was trans girl, was girls with Brianna Wu, who I ran a show with for a while. And she used her clout and influence in order to reach out into the trans community to do a maximal fundraiser after a swatting. And while I think that having cops with rifles show up even to your front doorstep, even if they're not pointing them at you, she hyperbolized the incident of her getting swatted, which wasn't like a tactical house raid. It was more like a knock and talk. They knocked on the outside of the house, and then they got her to come to the front door. And I'm sure it is scary. I'm sure it is scary to have rifles pointed at you. But she exaggerated the situation so she could fundraise, and then she didn't follow through with the money, and then she blew through all the cash. And it was like 100 and some odd grand. And I get that, like, you know, people gave it willingly and they still sympathize with her as a victim of people harassing her online and all that kind of stuff. But listen, you got to think about how much good 100 grand could do within a community, and then think of that as effectively theft. That's where, you know, Keffels has since disappeared from the scene. She tried like once or twice to come back and she hasn't been able to come back. But consistently, we see lefties either mismanaging money and or committing fraud, and then the community self-sweeping for it. And so this is another reason why this is effectively like the far left hate hour. That's the content that we're producing right now. That's one of the reasons why I hate far lefties, is when, you know, Hassan spends $250,000 on a supercar, they don't go, oh, wow, like, aren't we trying to achieve decommodification of basic human needs and workers owning the means of production? Couldn't he use that money? Couldn't he buy like a reasonable car, like a Toyota Corolla LE or like an Acura, which is the high-end Toyota or Honda or whatever? I forget what an Acura is. But couldn't he buy like a high-end, like $50,000 car and then put $200,000 towards seed funding for a cooperative or something. You know, there's none of this critique. Instead, it's like socialism isn't a poverty cult. And it's like, okay, well, fuck you guys, right? So that's where the lefties completely lose me with failing to hold their leaders accountable for anything. TY says, Connor, that's pretty gay, bro. What? Drinking tea? Go fuck yourself. How about that? Hold on to your seats, boys. It's tea time with Connor, the Florida boomer. Yes. Connor has a sensitive tum-tum. Where's the empathy, guys? Yeah, where the fuck is your empathy? Aren't you all liberals? Nope says, okay, yeah, actually. That Vosh thing was unfortunate. A lesson to all. Do not use your business computer for porn. Okay, but guys, you're taking the wrong lesson here. Don't consume degenerate pornography. Easy. Diggy Boy says, Connor, this is the most homoerotic bullshit you've ever admitted to. Drinking tea? Do you use honey with tea? No. Kalinda says, I love how he paused at the Vosh 9/11 to rant at chat for being mad about his tea consumption. Yeah. Conservative liberalism. Do you stir your tea with an orange crayon? I do. Then you pour it on yourself? Yes. Are you Jewish? That's how I take my tea? No. Boko Haram says, I hate that when I open my taxes folder when I'm online too. Okay. All right. Y'all are having too much fun.
Audience to be more willing to go after Ethan and ruin his career in some way. This didn't end up happening, which I'll bring up later. But basically, Jake was once again using his Lyme disease to benefit himself financially. He also has a non-profit that sells branded merch. What the website doesn't tell you is that 90% of the profits from his overpriced junk goes to him. Only 10% goes to people in need. Jake had only admitted to this at the end of a few videos.
Also, if you feel like it, you can donate to the Never Stop Fund. 10% of all profits from the clothing brand go into the fund. So either way, you're helping people out.
If you're selling merch on a non-profit, you probably shouldn't be taking profits from it. Kinda scummy, dude. It's more clear now on the website, but still. Sorry about that tangent. Anyways, I want to give one more example of these guys weaponizing their audiences with malicious intent. The SuperMega drama. I won't get too detailed into this, because there's loads of other videos that do a good job at that. But basically, a bunch of YouTubers and streamers made statements accusing Matt Watson and Ryan McGee of some pretty awful things. Most of these statements were disproven, involving cheating and homophobia. But what stuck around a bit longer was the allegation spread by Lex Updog. She alleges that Matt and Ryan knowingly covered up her sexual assault by a channel artist, yet they showed evidence of her wanting to keep it private. Many of her other claims are also disproven, but Lex, her pal Nick is not green, and her boyfriend, Ethan is online, stayed stubborn. Throughout this drama, they pretty much used the topic of SA to motivate their audience to cancel SuperMega, even holding a live stream on Ethan's second channel to celebrate. This was pretty gross behavior, especially when Matt and Ryan's late friend Daniel was brought up. Lex alleged that the two would make jokes about his passing, which they denied. Even if they did, who cares? They're allowed to make jokes about their trauma. I mean, Ryan was the one who found his body.
The person making these claims never knew Daniel. They definitely were not a part of the group that experienced the trauma of losing him. And I think, honestly, it is disrespectful to bring him up as a weapon. I felt like he was just brought into the situation for drama's sake to try to hurt me or Matt or hurt our image. I have done enough shit to tarnish my image, but I will not stand by and let someone talk lies about the way I talked or treated my trauma in regards to Daniel.
The fans of the
let's break this down real quick because chat is so distracted with Teagate. Teagate, me making tea in a weird way and spilling it all over myself is distracting chat. So let's summarize this perspective real quick. SuperMega, no idea what their content is, but it's effectively like a popular skit, comedy, whatever podcast channel. Who cares, right? Who cares what their content is? The point is that they're not like super political, but they got a few political friends. Like Ethan is online now. Eden is online, and then whatever that gal's name is, who was Eden is online's girlfriend. And so the whole cancellation was over the fact that that girl, Lex Updog, that's her name. She came out to California without much of a plan. She stayed with them for months without paying rent. She was living in their house that also doubled as a studio. So she was inconveniencing the production of what was going on. There wasn't much of a game plan in order to find a house. A artist who worked for SuperMega that she was dating allegedly sexually assaulted her. And then that turned into them basically trying to help her out financially, establish herself in LA. And then when she failed to capitalize on it and actually move out, after several months, they finally got pissed and they were like, listen, you got to move on. Like, you got to move out. You got to move on. We can't keep you in the office forever. So, you know, we'll try to help you out, but it is what it is. And then that turned into an attempt to destroy their reputations and destroy their channel, including bringing up the fact that they made jokes about one of their friends who committed suicide. And I'm just going to tell you, I come from like a pretty messed up, rough and tumble crowd. If somebody commits suicide in my group, even if I love them, we're probably going to make fun of them. Just as an example, and I want to bring this up. Yeah, fuck it. Let's do it. Let's do a little bit of parasocial connection time. Let me stare into your beautiful eyeballs. Let's talk about suicide. Along with spilling tea in Balenciaga drama, let's talk about suicide, okay? So, a couple of days ago, it's not my friend, somebody committed suicide in our extended friend group. And basically, I was criticizing them to somebody who doesn't care, that isn't directly involved, that they were a selfish asshole. And the reason why I was saying they were a selfish asshole was because they left their partner in an apartment about to get evicted with 9 animals. And in my opinion, that's a massive dick move, right? You get with your partner, you're having a good time, you have a soft spot for animals, so you adopt like, 9 different animals, 3 dogs, 6 cats. And then you're like, you know what? Life's kind of getting hard. I can't pay my bills. I'm about to get evicted. I'm just going to check out. And then they just checked out using pills. And they were found by their partner. So now they traumatized their partner. Their partner is still getting evicted. And now they have 9 animals to find a home for. And they can't. They don't really have the logistics for it. They don't have the logistics to take care of all those animals by themselves. Kind of an asshole move. I'm going to compare this to when I was working in law enforcement. There was a gentleman who found out he had cancer in his 70s, and he was married. All the kids had moved out of the house, all that kind of stuff. And he waited till his wife was in the shower, left a note, walked out to a isolated garden area, brought his own lawn chair. There was a gazebo in the garden area, but he didn't want to make a mess. And so he brought his own lawn chair, sat in the lawn chair, called law enforcement, told us that he was going to do it, put a single round into a pistol, and then did it. And he left the pistol so it was racked to the rear, so we could see that, number one, he was gone, and number two, that it would, like, his pistol was safe, so we wouldn't get hurt or killed because he wouldn't just wake up and start blasting us, right? And so I think about these two people, and I think about these two different suicides. And the truth is that, like, death doesn't wash away what that person's life was. And it also doesn't wash away the context in which they died. And so if you kill yourself, you can expect people to either make fun of you or criticize your life circumstance or whatever. It doesn't, I'm not one of these people who, like, death pops up and then instantaneously it washes away all of your sins. That's not what happens. I try to talk a minimal amount of shit about people who commit suicide, but the truth is, if you commit suicide is already a talking point, and then how you commit suicide does matter. All right, just going to read a couple of chats for shits and gigs, but I'm only taking a look at Counterpoints. Dickie Boy says, advocating for littering now, are we? Man, it's hard to keep up with chat. I'm not going to lie when we have this many people. I understand why streamers ignore their chats now. I need to figure out a better system. Bum number 1 says, Vosh is wrong as well. The purpose of this degen material is exploitation in and of itself. You do not get high from your Nikes being unethically sourced. Bum number 1 brings up a excellent argumentative point that should be obvious, which is effectively that the content itself is exploitative, whereas Nikes eventually could be produced ethically. W says, the problem is ick-based responses aren't always logical. Who cares? Some people aren't even able to defend their icks, like homophobic laws are entirely ick-based. So W, let's go. Let's do it. Let's do it. You don't need, I'm just going to share this with you, and I might lose a few homosexual viewers along the way, but that's okay, because I'm telling you the truth as I see it. Homosexuality, for you're gay, I have a feeling that it's partially probably genetic, right? Let me go out with some latitude. My understanding is that we all, relatively speaking, from a hormone and genetics base, start out as female, and then we get bombarded with hormones and genetic switches that ultimately transition males into being males. That's my understanding of it. And if in that process, it makes sense to me intuitively that there are going to be people who have, like, if attraction is partially genetic, which I'm sure it is, then it would make sense to me that some switches are going to get flipped for some people, and some switches are not going to get flipped for some people. And so some people are going to be straight, some people are going to be bi, and some people are going to be gay. And so that's not a moral condemnation. That's just nature, as far as I can understand it, right? So I understand not having like a repulsive ick factor for that. I get that. However, I do think that sodomy, which I'm not trying to morally load it, but sodomy involves cleaning your butt so you don't get poop on your genitals when you engage in sodomy. And there are probably people in the ancient world in particular who did not clean very well when they engaged in sodomy. And so as a result, by dealing with feces, they got diseases and they died. And so the hostility to homosexuality could be rooted in something irrational, but ultimately it's probably this like subconscious judgment of dealing with, feces, basically, when it comes to sodomy, where that can lead to negative health outcomes if not done properly. Now, in the modern context, we've invented so much technology where we have condoms, we have douches, we have cleaning stuff, that not only do we not make a moral judgment about the genetic and environmental factors that lead somebody to be homosexual or bisexual, but we also have ways of bypassing all of the disease factors that probably went into pagan and ancient sodomy and homosexuality. And so you shouldn't have the moral judgment that medieval Christians did in reference to sodomy, because it doesn't necessarily make sense. However, I wouldn't ask people who have developed that instinct for an aversion to sodomy or homosexuality. I wouldn't ask them to repress their repulsive instinct. I would ask them to be tolerant and accepting of gay folk, where it's just like, just don't say, oh, you don't have a logical reason for why you feel the way you do. Well, guess what? Feels trump facts in the modern context. So you're never going to trump feels. So my line of argumentation would be, it's a gay couple in their house. They're doing their thing. Don't think about it. Don't worry about it. Let them do their thing. And if they're otherwise good people, who gives a fuck? I think you're going to make it infinitely further with conservatives and libertarians and conservatarians by appealing to their sense of, grace, intolerance, than you will by trying to tell them that their feelings are wrong. All right, you guys are still memeing about tea, which is pissing me off. Thanks, Captain Squiggles, you son of a bitch. All right, now that we've talked about homosexuals, let's get back into the content.
Trio didn't care and left various nasty comments on his goodbye video, so much so that the comments had to be turned off. Only Nick would apologize for this, and Ethan and Lex would remain adamant that all their allegations are true. For someone who holds people super responsible for what they say, you truly are a hypocrite, Ethan.
And as a creator, spreading this kind of parasocial rhetoric and allowing it to be okay on your channel is not only irresponsible, but it's probably going to bite you in the ass one day.
But this isn't the only tactic these guys use to attack their opponents. They also love labeling them as full-blown extremists. 3. They dehumanize their opponents. Breadtube, being filled with many on the far left, view those of opposing viewpoints as inherently bad, even those who most would consider right-wing. Even the occasional left-wing personalities get called Nazis from time to time. They do this due to an "you're either with us or against us" mentality, trying to draw a line between their side and everyone else. This instead alienates people and makes them more radical. which is not a good thing on either side of the political spectrum. I first brought this topic up in my Noah Samson video, as he loves to label his opponents as incels, red pillars, reactionaries, or fascists. An issue I have with this is that he doesn't properly define these terms, as he kind of throws them around all willy-nilly. I mean, there's this one video where he shows a cringy workout motivation video, and describes it as this.
Like, I'm all for a little gym motivation, right? But why does it have to be a little bit fascist, you know? I don't know, seems not great.
What does showing fat people as lazy have to do with fascism? You can criticize that video without making it so political like that. Another breadtuber who unnecessarily used the term fascist is Big Joel, who made a video titled, "Conservative Comedy Destroyed My Life." In this video, he reviews the Nostalgia Critic video on the 1982 Pink Floyd film, The Wall. It's a pretty bad video, and I went over why in my worst YouTuber song list, but Joel's criticism of it is incredibly questionable. I mean, Doug himself is not political, and neither is this video really. Joel alludes to Doug being a liberal centrist, but then calls him reactionary as he dives into a contentious scene. The scene being parodied alludes to fascism, while the parody itself is a pretty pretentious message about cancel culture, but it wasn't intended to spread any sort of political messaging. This doesn't stop Joel from saying this.
Doug looks at a film about a Nazi who screams about murdering Jews and says, "That guy's just like me. I'm gonna make a whole song about how much I love that guy." And that's not funny, at least not on purpose. It's sad.
Again, criticize the shitty video all you want, but you lost me when you tried to string together a political message out of it. Other breadtubers use similar tactics.
All right. Education time. After I read something from CBum27. I hopped over here after seeing your MIB combo. I've come to the realization that I don't hate conservatives. I just dislike MAGA. Moderates need to stand together. Yeah, dude, there's plenty of smart neocons. There's plenty of smart Republicans, never Trump Republicans. There's plenty of conservatives who are actually like fundamentally good people. And I just think that MAGA is a cult that sucked up way too many people. And the truth is that, like, eventually when Trump is kicked out of office, these people will no longer have a cult leader to cling to. And the ones that come after will probably be poor imitations. So we need to survive the next year and a half, make Trump a lame duck in the midterms, and then we need to see to it that he leaves office in 2028. And then if JD Vance or one of the Trump kids is the spiritual successor to the MAGA movement, we need to kick the shit out of them in the general election. Like, yeah. TY says he's such a grumpy Gary today. I know. My apologies. Jay Afro says, I wasn't fucking with you to the too old thing. I was talking about myself. All right, well, maybe I'm sensitive today. I don't know. It's probably because I spilled my tea. Boat Knight says, buying another Man of Frosty is the modern equivalent of Breaking Bad or Breaking Bread. True. Yep. Herkimer says, wow, I had a hunch that Tiny was doing something vulgar, but I didn't know it was public knowledge. It got released in November. They had personal DMs. Matter of fact, drama and fascism time. Let's go ahead and do that, okay? Quick shill time as well. Oh, beautiful. Rube Duke, thank you. I'll read that in a second. So, quick shill time. Like the stream, it's free. Super chats if you got them. They're live. Memberships and Twitch subs, if you got them, they're live. Rube Duke for $20 says, hey dude, saw you through Destiny. Love the idea of libertarian, conservative, liberal alliance. Don't agree with you and Destiny all the time, but between you two and the overlap is non-negotiable. Keep it up. Thank you, King. And thank you for the donation. In brief comment on that, conservatarians, libertarians, and conservatives who are not Trump could do an alliance with liberals. They can't do an alliance with leftists. Just sharing. Then let's talk about the relationship shenanigans real quick. And then I'll talk about fascism. Lauren and I hung out in 2022, I want to say, shooting a documentary in Baltimore. And what she said is, hey, I got something to tell you. Basically, I'm divorced and a single mom. Steven and I have been hanging out. We're really good friends. It's not physical, it's emotional, and it's causing some drama on the back end. But, realistically, I'm trying to get my shit together. That's what she told me in Baltimore. And so I think a year later, somebody was covering it and they said, oh, Lauren Southern, they were covering the Lav drama, where Lav and Mr. Grohl were alluding to the fact that there was an affair that caused Tiny some problems. And everybody was like, oh, it's Lauren. And I was like, no, because I had that conversation with Lauren, which is my fault for being too parasocial and injecting myself into it. But I was like, no, you know, it wasn't physical, blah, 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 blah. Well, I had some people jump down my throat in reference to that one. Not Lauren and not Steven, to be clear, but other people jumped down my throat about inserting myself into the drama. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to back off. And then in November, effectively, it came out, November of 2024, it came out, a bunch of DMs got leaked. And in those DMs, it showed that Lauren and Steven had a pretty emotionally complex and likely physical relationship. And so at that point, it just kind of felt like the cat was out of the bag, and it is what it is. Lauren hasn't come back, which again, I find sad. Despite her dissident right-wing leanings, I actually think she's quite an insightful and intelligent person. And then Tiny obviously took like a bloody nose over the past 6 months. That sucks. But, you know, he also did it to himself. So what I'm hoping for in the future is that Lauren chills out, stops hanging out with all the dissident right-wing freaks that she's hanging out with, and she uses her insight and intelligence to actually relay good information back to the world and becomes like a commentator. Now, she might be so turned off from online politics that she might never come back, but it is what it is. And then when it comes to Tiny, obviously we had our little, you know, hangout where we shot guns and did a stream together or whatever. I would say I'm happy to be Steven's friend, but I am half expecting him to like randomly become a serial killer and just like stab half a dozen people around me and me have to take a black eye. I'm naturally like a cynical person. So it's not that Steven has done anything particularly bad to me where I have to presume that he's going to like screw me over or whatever. But it's just kind of the way the world works where I just expect like the worst thing possible to happen. So I'll be Steven's friend for as long as he wants to be my friend. And I'll try not to screw him over. But also I'm half expecting him to serial kill people and then me have to be like, why were you friends with the serial killer? And I'd be like, well, I kind of thought he might have been a serial killer, but he was really funny and intelligent and charismatic. So I just went with it. So that's what I'm preparing for. In reference to fascism, which is actually related to the content, fascism, which I'm happy to educate you about, is political corporatism and flexible authoritarianism. My chat, the 70 to 100 people who normally hang out here should be familiar with it. Political corporatism has nothing to do with corporations, okay? Has to do with the human body. There's a brain. There's eyes, there's ears, there's nose, there's a mouth, there's a heart, there's lungs. And so fascists analogize the nation state to a functional human body. And so the economy would be the heart, and government would be the brain, and intel apparatuses would be the eyes, and the police would be the autoimmune system, so on and so forth. And it's actually like a fairly interesting, nuanced model of how to understand like statecraft. The only problem with it is oftentimes you identify Jews or black folk or gay folk or trans folk or Roma, you identify those people as like a virus and then you try to purge them from the body. That's what fascists typically have done historically. And so political corporatism in and of itself isn't a problem, but it lends itself to dehumanization, villainization, and ethno-religious purges on a massive scale. So it's a dangerous double-edged philosophy. And then flexible authoritarianism, trying to make it brief, is you don't care about institutions in and of themselves. You don't care about the church. You don't care about the papacy. You don't care about the parliament. You don't care about any of that kind of shit. You only care about social institutions insofar as they're able to grant you power. And then you only really care about getting yourself power as the great man of history who's going to lead the fascist revolution, power for your cronies, and then maintaining power for yourself. And it's kind of like a Star Wars Sith ideology, where if you get taken out by somebody else, it just means that they were smarter, faster, stronger, better, right? So it's kind of like a great man philosophy. Nope says, what is a man? A miserable pile of secrets. Number one, I'm not miserable. Number two, I don't have any secrets. So I would say that a man should endeavor to have as few secrets as possible. I could try to engage with chat, but then I would have to scroll past 50 different comments, and I don't want to do that. I actually want to engage with my chat. So since I've been yapping for 5 to 10 minutes, I'm going to get back into the content, and then I'll scroll to the next comment that I want to address.
To create sort of a scapegoat for the opposition in order to discuss the criticism. During the SuperMega drama, Nick would refer to his haters as Reddit debate dorks. The first time was indirectly in a separate video.
Today I'm wearing my scary shirt to make me look a lot a lot more scary. There's too many Reddit debate bro dorks on this website trying to come after me every single day. So I thought I'd show them a little bit of what I'm made of. You know, do I look scary?
Sure, buddy. Anyways, he says something similar in an Instagram story, very clearly referencing Destiny, who began looking into the SuperMega drama thanks to Turkey Tom. Then we come to In Praise of Shadows, who I'll call Zane for the rest of the video. Surprised I really haven't discussed or talked about him on the channel yet, though to be fair, a lot of channels did. I did archive the original video, so you're welcome. Basically, this dude makes horror movie videos and made a really bad review of The Hills Have Eyes, where he compares the cannibals to American minorities. This basically sent him into a downward spiral, leading to the video, Bad Conservative Horror Movies. Most of this video has nothing to do with the title. It is mainly a response to the hate he gets, along with being a hit piece against a bunch of YouTubers he is a hate boner for. The main one being Wendigoon, who he describes as a fascist bootlicker.
Claiming to be very against the government and for the rights of the people, while at the same time giving a warm embrace to one of the biggest fascist bootlickers on the internet. And the only thing that one could reasonably gather from this picture of them hugging is that he too is a fascist bootlicker himself.
Dude, Donut Operator is a former cop, who occasionally criticizes other cops. What are you on about? A lot of this segment is just Zane trying to label all of Wendigoon's friends as right-wing fascists, despite most of them not being political at all. They just like guns, and Wendigoon himself is Christian. One of the only political YouTubers he mentions is Shu, who Zane refers to as this.
He is publicly friends with Shoe on Head, who is a conservative masquerading as a leftist, who has built a career off of lazy anti-woke content, complaining about SJWs, who says stuff like, Karl Marx rising from the grave finding out his movement has been taken over by fat, ugly, mentally ill losers.
Yeah, Shu is not a secret conservative. She voted for Bernie Sanders. Lumping these pretty average people as right-wing extremists is pretty hilarious, as this dude is an actual extremist. I mean, at one point he claims that Wendigoon should be allowed in public, due to the beliefs Zane described him.
I care deeply about horror, and everything that he does has demonstrated so far in his career that he should not be welcomed in our spaces, or even, you know, just in public in general.
He also accuses Wendigoon of being racist, strictly because of the area he lives in.
Deep Appalachia is very white country, and for the
I could explain that, but I'm hoping that you already just took enough psychic damage with me. This person described the hills have eyes and analogized the malformed mutant monsters who rape and murder a caravan of civilians as the minorities. That's where your oppression analysis has gone way too far and you've just become lost in the sauce. Also, when it comes to like not understanding libertarians, I'll try to explain this for folks. Libertarians want the government to be involved in their shit as minimally as possible. Some of them still believe in a government, though. As a matter of fact, I have a feeling that despite Donut Operator having very stupid takes on Twitter, that if you actually asked him what his ideology is, where he's like maximal human freedom, but at some point you still need a state, that's probably me as well. So Donut Operator and I wouldn't be surprised if we had like 80% political overlap, even though he probably isn't very insightful. So I would actually be curious about that. And I think the only way that you can come up with this political analysis is effectively if you think that every liberal is a fascist. So when you know, like when you cut a liberal, a fascist bleeds, that whole thing, that's the only way that this is possible. Engaging with chat, though, even though it's a classic mistake. Eric Dom says, I also wish Southern would come back. I did not like her politics, but she always struck me as a decent person who was weirdly misguided. That's actually the interesting thing about talking to Lauren. As far as I can tell, she's not a grifter. She's a believer. What actually gets her in trouble is the fact that she's a believer. C-Dub says, speaking of your association with Lauren, was that after you started streaming or in online orbits beforehand? So believe it or not, in probably 21, maybe 20, I forget exactly when. I could go check. But she was making a cop documentary in the wake of the BLM riot. So it had to have been like late 20, early 21. And so somebody said, oh, she's looking for cops to interview. And I knew Lauren. I knew Lauren from back in the day, like 2017, 2018, anti-SJW Lauren. And so I emailed her and said, hey, I could help out with this. And then, you know, we worked on the cop documentary. 2/3 of it I thought was okay. 1/3 of it I thought was not that great. But, you know, hey, c'est la vie. We still made a good documentary. And then what was the other thing? And then basically from there, we were just online friends. We did a couple of online collaborations. I did a struggle session with her, with Gassim, who's a community member. We basically tried to get her to admit that the Great Replacement was the product of socioeconomic and geopolitical factors rather than a Jewish conspiracy. She was pretty uncomfortable during that struggle session, but you know, she ultimately ended up conceding that it was like more likely that it was geopolitical factors than the Jews, you know, that kind of thing. So I've always hung out with like dissident right-wing people while trying to force them to be less crazy. It's one of my many sins. Dicky Boy says, whatever happened to Brianna anyways? She kind of went on, she didn't want to roll in the mud of Twitch and YouTube politics, whereas I did. And she wanted to focus on the Israel shit. And I don't mind focusing on the Israel shit, but I don't want to make it my entire personality. So we gracefully parted ways. Conservative liberalism said she woke up with a rifle pointed at her head, made it sound like they kicked in the front door, rappelled down the side of the house, and simultaneously breached her bedroom with a flashbang. Yeah. Whereas what happened was she woke up, her girlfriend called her into the hallway, and there were cops standing outside of her doorway with rifles and pistols, right? And maybe they were pointing it down the hallway, but it wasn't like a tactical breach, bang and clear. It was, you know, a knock and talk. No Nope says she didn't move to Ireland, but definitely went through a bunch of money on drugs. Yeah. Didn't even use the money for rehab. Yep. I have to read the at counterpoints so we can be efficient, so I'll read another half dozen before we get in there. Kalinda says, at counterpoints. Also, don't forget that Keffels led the charge and got Destiny banned on Twitch for his comments about trans Twitter people. He was the first to expose her lies years ago. Not only, and then she also denied responsibility. She said that, hey, go report his shit. Then he got banned. Then she claimed responsibility. Then she said that she wasn't responsible. And it's like, dude, you gotta pick a lane, right? Bum number one says, many cases of lefty grifters of dubious sexual proclivities receiving exactly 150K and then going to another country. Random ASCAT, you know, I want to say sergeant. I want to say like airman sergeant, random air sergeant, but your name's crazy. So random ASCAT says, all BreadTubes are all BreadTube is PSYOP Destiny. Destiny's mother worked for DARPA. Dylan Burns, Anastasia, Willie Mack, Vosh, Hassan, Connor, Tomfoolery, Not So Erudite, Dan Saltman, Ethan Klein, and Turkey Tom at least. Holy shit. I would love it if the military industrial complex donated to my channel. That would be so based. I would love that. All right, scrolling. We'll read one more and then we'll get back into it. Christian Blair says, new T emote when? Yeah, get somebody scroll back and get an emote of me spurging. All right.
For the most part, is exceptionally racist. Genuinely in this part of the country, you have to assume that any white person you meet is racist unless they show you otherwise.
What would I call someone who judges another person based on skin color? Oh, I know. Racism. Good job, Zane. Glad it's people like you determining who's racist. Now, I really didn't see any other BreadTubers defending this dude, as this video was bad, even for their standards. Though these guys produce similarly bad faith videos, it's just never this blatant. Noah Samson recently talked about Zane, mentioning that it was just weird.
So in case you couldn't tell by the footage he's showing on the stream, this guy's referencing, it seems like In Praise of Shadows video about Wendy Goon, if anyone's familiar with that. My audience might not be, but pretty weird video. Pretty weird and bad video. I like that guy's videos otherwise. That was just a really weird video.
I guarantee you Noah is downplaying it, because his exposed videos are just as poorly done. I mean, his Cheeto video basically painted him as a terrorist for reacting to something from libs of TikTok. He also accused Patient Xena of creating a right-wing pipeline, for not thinking racism wasn't the only reason people didn't like the Little Mermaid remake, and has made numerous attempts at dunking on Think Before You Sleep for being far-right and doing bad research. These usually never work for him, and he even deleted the Patient Xena video earlier this year. They do this because at the end of the day, BreadTubers are only really looking to make their political team look good, not having nuanced or interesting discussions, which leads us to our next point. 4. They treat everything as team sports. A lot of the hypocrisies in this community come down to them only caring about what those on the right or center do. If someone on their side of the aisle does something bad or questionable, they either look the other way or try to downplay it. The most recent example of this is with the Ava Chris Tyson situation, with only a few BreadTubers covering it. If you somehow don't know, Ava has been accused of grooming multiple minors on Discord and buying lolly art, among other things. While covering it on stream, Ethan is Online decided to downplay it all by saying Ava was just posting some edgy tweets 7 years ago. and that people change. He gets pressed for seemingly defending Ava.
I'm going to make a bigoted request to the trans community, okay? Bigoted request inbound. My bigoted request is that you guys just engage with homosexual or heterosexual pornography. No furry shit, no lolicon, no ephebophilia, no zoophilia, none of that. If you guys want social acceptance, which I understand, and maybe that's not all you want, maybe you also want to let your freak flag fly when it comes to pornography or whatever, please God, just engage with normal pornography. Boat Knight says, does Event Horizon take place in the Warhammer universe, which is probably the most important question I've gotten from chat so far, and the answer is absolutely. Jonah Boy says, now we need tea merch. True. Again, find me something where I'm spurging out and we'll turn it into tea merch. Then, scrolling. Poke Gallo Blanco says, PsyOp called Breadtube Destiny. Destiny mother worked for DARPA. Dylan. Oh my God, dude. Poke Gallo Blanco. You got one more. Either engage in chat or I'm going to ban you. Dr. Plague Doctor says, Counterpoints. That's pretty dark for someone who likes milk in their tea. Pretty sure that that's us mood kindred. Excellent. All right. Scrolling. No Nope says, Matt Walsh is a great example of a douche. I mean, yeah. Hado Norm. So hold on. Somebody engaged with what I was talking about with somebody would engage with what I said about sodomy. And so I want to engage back. Hado Norm says, I mean, STDs existed everywhere in the medieval ancient times, so I don't know about that. But I cite to you, Hado Norm, that, or Hado Narm, Hat Zero Narm, that also proves my point. The whole reason why the Jews were monogamous and they created like the patriarchal marriage structure is because they were trying to guarantee paternity and they were trying to minimize STDs. So you're actually exactly proving my point. Why the fuck is he talking about sodomy? I'm going to save you some time. There you go. Listen, this is my, let's get real again. Let's get real again. We're going to get real. DGG. I normally stream to 50 to 70 people, and I want you here. I want you to come here. I want you to have a good time. I want you to enjoy the content. I want you to walk me react Andy. However, there's a temptation on my end when there's a whole bunch of new people, and I know they're from a liberal community, to try to cater to that community and change what I do and who I am and how I engage with chat and all that kind of shit. I don't want to do that. I just want to tell you truth as I see it. If that's for you and you want to hang out in the community, awesome. If that's not for you and you have preferred liberal creators, so I'm just your second or third favorite creator and you just tolerate my views, that's totally fine. But what I'm not going to do is I just timed somebody out who said, why the fuck is he talking about sodomy? Fuck you, it's my stream. I'm going to talk about whatever the fuck I want to talk about. If I want to talk about which crayon flavor tastes best, I'm going to talk about that. If I want to talk about spilling tea on myself for 10 minutes, I'm going to talk about that. If I'm going to talk about how Brit bongers are weird about tea, I'm going to talk about that. And if I'm going to talk about sodomy and how I feel like there's an Evo psychology perspective on how sodomy might be repulsive to the average medieval peasant, then I'm going to talk about that. And if you got a fucking problem with that, there's a back button and there's an X button. Choose one. Not my fucking problem to constantly cater to people who don't like what I'm saying. It's not going to fucking happen. Boku Haram says, so if I'm entertaining, stay. If I'm not entertaining, fuck off. Boku Haram says, yep, doesn't bother me if it doesn't involve or affect me. I think that you'll get further with libertarians, conservatarians, and conservatives by appealing to their libertarian impulses than you will trying to get them to not feel feelings. Jay Afro says, I imagine STDs have existed as long as mankind, just that medieval times and such didn't know what it was or what to call it. Right. And so they invented heterosexual monogamy in order to minimize issues of paternity and issues of disease. Seems pretty obvious to me. Shocking to some people in chat, though. Jade says, feels often trump facts, but we should push towards a society where they do less and less. And some of that is going, sorry, I understand your feelings, but the facts disagree. Or saying, Jade, that your feelings are one way, the facts are another way. So at minimum, tolerate people who engage with a different set of facts. That's pretty easy. Connor scaring the hose again. That's fine. That's fine if we scare the hose. Appeal to their sense of freedom. Yes, Ryan B. You get it. All right, last one, then we're getting back into it. First Wave Negativity says, the problem is that earlier you argued repulsion is a sufficient justification for making things illegal. That's obviously wrong, so you're pivoting to how convincing arguments are. I don't even know if I said that. I don't even know if I said the word legal. I'm saying don't eat dog shit on the side of the road because you're trying to prove the conservatives wrong because they don't have a rational 10-page study for how thecophilia is bad for you. That's what I remember saying. So I don't think that I said like, you know, like the incest thing, right? Well, don't worry. We'll get back into the content, but this is DGG, so we have to do an incest pause break, okay? Incest. Should you bang a relative? No. Why? Because it's icky. Okay. Now, DGG might go, well, if you had homosexual twins and they wore condoms and there's technically nobody getting hurt, therefore you could bang your identical twin homosexual brother. You know what people hear? You're a fucking freak. It's repulsive. Shut the fuck up. If it's repulsive and it's not going to do anybody any good, but you can't fully articulate the harm, defer to your judgment that it's repulsive. Otherwise, people are going to think you're fucking freaks. And if you want to be a freak, but I'm going to call you a freak. Gen X says Connor is going to be mad when these chats pop up. Actually, I was more mad about the T, but you know, it is what it is. Last one. And then there are some more interesting chats, but you know, we'll save them. W says, that wouldn't explain hatred of lesbians either. I understand that you won't get rid of the ick, but rather that recognizing that your icks aren't always logical is logic-based is important. But W, I would say that less people have the ick about lesbians. Don't you notice how plenty of people basically say like, oh, you know, I don't like that gay stuff, but I can watch, you know, lesbian pornography. A lot of people do not have the same repulse instinct that they do for homosexual males versus homosexual females. All right. Anyways, we talked about sodomy. We talked about homosexuality. We talked about EvoPsych. We talked about STDs. Back to the content.
And having some level of bias.
I will say that I do have I have a recency bias. I have a bias for shit that has actually happened in the last 5 fucking years. I mean, Jesus. It shows a bias. I can say that what Chris was doing on the internet in 2017 is fucking gross, unacceptable, but she doesn't do that anymore. She doesn't do that. It's not acceptable. I agree with you.
Okay, first off, bro, this shit is beyond gross. And second, these tweets go up to 2019, 5 years ago. Your recency bias should apply. God, he looks like a Courage the Cowardly Dog villain. Also, Ethan doesn't clearly think that way, because his most popular second channel video is over 30 minutes of him criticizing creepy things Matt Walsh said a decade ago. And he even complains about hypocrisy here.
I think you should absolutely give people the benefit of the doubt that they have changed when you see them have an old take that's a bad take. But when you dig up something from 15 years ago on Matt Walsh and it's still perfectly in line with his worldview and there's no evidence that he's ever changed and he still thinks that way, and you can reasonably assume that he still thinks that way and he's publicly saying these kinds of things, it doesn't matter how old it is. He might as well have said that fucking clip yesterday because he's the same stupid incel pedophile fuck.
This is despite the fact that Ethan criticized Alex Rosen for his old pedo hunting tactics, which the guys improved upon. In Ethan's video on Alex, he points out many times that Alex is conservative and tries to paint him as a creepy fuck. Though at the same time, he makes weird statements like that Alex was harassing EDP, seemingly sympathizing with a pedo,
And so he and his weird little cameraman are just harassing EDP and asking him a bunch of really stupid questions like, why do you do this, man?
Later, he criticizes Alex for not helping self-admitted pedos.
Like, this dude probably makes plenty of money off this shit, but he's not paying for therapy. He's not getting these guys into like a housing that's away from like anyone they could do any harm to, that has no internet. He's not doing shit. And he gets called a hero for it by hogs like Michael Knowles.
Yeah, the housing is...
Listen, I'm going to tell you that maybe when you start sympathizing with pedos to the point that like you're doing the oppressor oppressed analysis, you know, you probably gone too far. And this is why I don't like oppressor oppressed analysis, because you can't criticize the oppressed. So sometimes, for instance, a class of people like pedophiles should be socially repressed. All right, going back to chat, because let's face it, chat is more entertaining. W says, that wouldn't explain hatred of lesbians either. I understand that you won't get rid of the ick, but rather that recognizing that your icks aren't always logical is important. And I agree with half of what you said, and I think I already addressed this a moment ago, but I would say that there's less ick around lesbians, which does tie back into my Evo psych argument. Jade says, the link between fat shaming and fascism is that fat shaming pushes towards conformity rather than letting diversity happen. Sure, but even fat people should be healthy. I would be less critical of this guy. Like, I have a little bit of chunk. It's okay to have a little bit of chunk, and this guy has a little bit of chunk. But at the same time, this dude should lift weights, right? He should go for a walk a few times a week. He should try to be as healthy as maximally as possible. So even if he has a quote unquote different body type, doesn't mean that he shouldn't engage in healthy behavior. Whatever says, how will you pull the Democrats to the center? By fighting them in my chat and losing 30% of them because they can't stand the fact that I'm using Evo Psych in order to further arguments that might have a conservative bias. Andy Oak says, that last part is the easy part. All right, scrolling. Looking says, Jamster of the Wheel says, you still think there will be elections? Yes. What would it take you to convince you otherwise? Nothing you can say right now based off of facts available on the ground makes me think that the United States is going to give up its elections. All right, scrolling, looking for @counterpoints in chat before we move on. The Last Coyote says, everything within the state, nothing outside the state was Mussolini's whole thing. Yeah, and you think of the state as a politically corporative body. Like I said, the economy is the heart. The government is the brain. The intel apparatus is the eyes and ears. The mouth is the propaganda machine and the media. The feet are I don't know, come up with whatever foot thing you want to come up with. The antibodies are law enforcement. You can make tons of analogies related to a body and then say that a body should not be fighting itself. That's one of the things about liberalism, is because everything's so individualistic, it basically says that every single cell is its own thing that fights for its own interest. And while that can be true, and individualism is important to a certain degree to maximize human freedom, thriving, and well-being, it can also be incredibly counterproductive. You don't have any secrets, huh? What's your social security number? Ah, you got me. I got owned in the marketplace of ideas.
Is called Prison, which is where Alex is sending these creepy fucks to, since he works with law enforcement now. The fact that this dude is willing to go up to bat to defend literal predators just to dunk on some conservative is really bizarre to me, man. He could have just not mentioned any of the predator stuff and focused on the guy's beliefs, but no.
Is it just because they're idiots?
Are they idiots? Yeah, I'd say a lot of them are, but you know,
Okay, Michael Knowles is a fucking idiot. What kind of question is that? Are pedophiles because they're stupid?
This is the same guy who made a video trying to disprove the gay groomer narrative, and then twisted it by saying Catholic conservatives are the real pedos, with his only example being a 50-year-old case of a gay priest molesting a boy.
It is pretty extensively documented how much of a pedophile defender Archbishop John Roach was. He literally had the sexual assaulter of multiple boys.
Good job, Ethan, defending gay people by listing off one of them as an example. Another breadtuber who's been downplaying the Ava situation is Denims, and I eventually plan to talk about her takes on this in a future video. Basically, she spends 2 hours slowly reviewing the drama, and cherry-picking the lousiest evidence to show to her audience. She claims she doesn't think the art on Ava's wall was lolly, and dismisses other tweets she made as edgy nonsense. When called out on her hypocrisy, she reacts with hostility.
Oh, you guys are so cute. One day after the former Twitch staff tweet about Doc, but now you're why did we ban him? I was responding. but now your narrative changes when the pedo is trans. Did you? I think it's cute that you want to believe that we're not consistent, but we are. It's you guys that aren't consistent. I think buying a poster from this weird pedo Nazi artist is fucking creepy and strange. I also think a 33-year-old man trying to meet up with a minor is creepy and insane. But it's cute that you want to believe that we're not consistent on our positions.
She's referring to the Dr. Disrespect situation, which many compare this to for obvious reasons. Denims doesn't think this is as bad, despite there being way more evidence against Ava. When the doc made his statements, Denims was quick to make multiple tweets calling him out. Yet with Ava, she's pretty silent and is quick to question the accusers.
This is another instance where I feel like it's very bizarre that people are comparing the Dr. Disrespect situation to Ava's situation, because Dr. Disrespect was a 33-year-old man flirting with minors. Ava was a 20-year-old trying to make stupid jokes with minors. One of them is like, dude, what the fuck are you thinking? You're crazy. You're trying to commit a felony. And the other one is like, oh my God, you are cringe. You are beyond cringe.
Casey Tron, Denim's friend, has
trying to react to the content as maximally as possible. Let's just call them both bad. Let's just call them both bad and call it a day. Okay, let's just say that whoever, Dr. Disrespect, flirting with a teenager and trying to meet up with her, I think while being married, should be wholly condemned, and nobody should sweep for it just because they cater to one political group. And then same thing with Ava Chris Tyson. Ava Chris Tyson, for those of you who don't know, used to go by Chris Tyson and was one of Mr. Beast's friends and was a open lolly consumer who was a fan of the artist Shadman, and Shadman creates cartoon pornography of minors. We should just call that fucking evil. And I'm actually very happy that Mr. Beast severed connections and fired them and made a public pronouncement about it. And there was some heat about it because Ava Chris Tyson was trans, but that blew over pretty quickly. So you don't become trans and suddenly become a good person. You know what I'm saying? You don't become conservative and suddenly become a good person. There's plenty of pieces of shit in both political tribes, and we should deal with truth as maximally as possible. As frustrating as that is to do in our current political environment, we should do that, and we will do that maximally here. Bum number 1 says, Giovanni Gentile also said about the Polo Corpo, the man does not need freedom from the state, just like the nose does not need freedom from the face. That's not liberal, and I'm right-wing, but lib. Yeah, I agree. And to a certain degree, I think that society would be easier. I'm not saying it's better, but it would be easier if we thought of ourselves as American and that this is our problem and it's our society. And so if there's good things going on, we should praise that. And if there's bad things going on, we should deal with them. It's our responsibility. Now, if you're a hyper individualist and you don't want to take on any responsibility, I would say that's on you. But because we live in a liberal society, you're free to do so. But I would actually judge that morally and think that it's a bad move. Kalinda says, Shu is just a populist R slur. She transcends left and right in her populist R slurdation. Yeah. I mean, like I got frustrated with her. I criticized her CIA video, which I thought was very dumb. Power Kwachinski says, ouch. That was such an autistically shallow analysis. Oh, okay. Here you go. That caught a timeout as well. If you're going to criticize my analysis, write why, or else you get a timeout. Very simple. Thinking back on it, he might have been talking about, I'm sorry, I fucked up. He might have been, all the comments are related to the friendly fire. All the other comments are talking about the Hills Have Eyes. So I just fragged a DGG'er. My apologies, guys. I just fragged a DGG'er. I'm sorry. To that guy that I just hit. And this is all Hills Have Eyes comments. Whoops. My bad. Herkimer says Destiny and Lauren in a legit relationship is wild. Yeah, I think they both knew it wasn't going to last. Christian Blair says never go to watch the second doc with Connor because Tim Pool paywalled it. Yep, same here. Billy Koo says at Counterpoints, classic debate when Connor and Lauren Southern destroyed Surfs and Rabbit. Yep. Sorry to the person that I just friendly fragged. Eric Dom, I agree that she is a true believer. Destiny also said she is one of the few who actually reads, but she also talked a few times about her upbringing. They listen to talk radio a lot. Yep. All right, one more, then we'll get back into the content. Connor, stop kink shaming. No. Listen, there are plenty of DGGers in here, and therefore there is more kink in my chat than I am comfortable with. No Nope says, wait, if Event Horizon takes place in 40K universe, does Firefly? Yes. So, No Nope, you might like this. I'm working on, I have been working on a new channel called Counterpoints Sci-Fi. I'm also going to be doing Counterpoint Star Wars. And on my Counterpoints 40K channel, there's something called the Unified Timeline, where I take a dozen science fiction universes and I smash them into like Warhammer prehistory, where they line up with Warhammer lore. And so basically you would probably like that video, and you'll probably like the new channel. The new channel isn't launched yet, but I'll let you know when it is. Hannah Morrell says base to fabophilia does not exist. Well, we agree there. We're being sarcastic. If there was any attempts to minimize what Vosh did, it was sarcastic. The Lost Coyote says pornography. Okay. I'm going to skip that one, Lost Coyote. The Weird World of Guy says, when are we going to see Corvus Corax again? His warp stories are amazing. No idea. All right. Anyways, continuing.
Has also been downplaying this, despite how aggressive she's been with the doc. This hypocrisy extends to those on the opposing side, with Sneeko and Nick Merckx downplaying what the doc did. Though one side—
Ooh, hold on. We might have to eat a little bit of crow. Sorry. Let's read this. Jacob Cornhouse says, surprisingly, Wes Craven, the director of The Hills Have Eyes, described the cannibals as being representative of marginalized people. Technically, that guy's analysis is correct. The movie is just whack. Ooh. All right. I'll eat a little bit of crow on that. I think that's crazy as a director that you would make the minority analogous a bunch of like radiated, cannibalistic, murderous, rapist freaks. I think that's kind of crazy, but I guess we just have to eat crow on it.
Sense to those on the opposing side, with Sneeko and Nick Merckx downplaying what the doc did. Though one side is more blatant about it. Denims has flat out admitted before that she doesn't think covering drama from her neck of the woods is worth her time, saying this in the same stream where she defends Keffels.
My perspective is, I don't like to spend my time going after other people that are on the left, right? And that's just because I think my time is—
Sorry, somebody said something very interesting, but I'll save it for the next time I address chat.
better spent making fun of people on the right. You guys can disagree, and I'm not saying that no one should ever do this, and I'm not saying that I think it's bad to do this. I'm saying I don't like to spend my time fighting with people who are saying that they're on the left.
The fact she'll openly say this just shows how brainwashed her audience is. Noah Samson is also guilty of this, as he'd go out of his way to accuse Think Before You Sleep of leading to Illumination's doxing. Yet only a month prior, he was called out for being publicly friends of a known doxer. This is Bad Empanada, another BreadTuber who, just like Noah, hates Vosh and Xanderhall. Emp invited Noah to be part of his charity stream, with Noah making a now-deleted community post. He'd get some flack for this and not attend, with Emp mentioning this on the stream.
And someone in chat's asking about
I haven't seen him.
Ask about Noah. What about Noah Samson?
Noah said that he can't come on. I'm not sure if he can't come on because he got yelled at by Vosh pedophile fans, or because he just actually can't come on. But it's one of those.
Damn.
The real reason is because he got called out by other leftists for supporting a known doxer who sent targeted harassment campaigns against his critics. This guy also has a history making pro-9/11 statements and is allegedly a creep. One of the guys he doxed was someone he was trying to sue for alleging that he was a pedophile, which there is evidence for, though it's nothing super concrete. But yeah, Noah has never made a public statement regarding Empanada, though he left up a community post regarding unrelated criticism. These two are still following each other on Instagram, so this tells me that Noah doesn't give a shit about harassment or doxing, as long as someone he likes does it. I mean, here's him initiating a targeted harassment campaign against Xander Hall.
Stop it.
He'll probably complain about being clipped out of context, but I mean, the full video's there. It's a full video. You can watch the whole thing. Also, if you do go there, don't say anything mean, please. Just comment Squid Gang with 6 G's.
Yet he gives TBYS shit for doing the exact opposite, and discouraging his audience from leaving mean comments on Illy's video. Noah also ignored the fact that on multiple occasions, Illy sent her fans to mass report TBYS's video, despite it being pretty tame and not being considered cyberbullying under YouTube's strict rules. He even downplays it by saying TBYS is just a crybaby for even considering this could lead to deplatforming. Oh, and speaking of crybabies.
So right there, this problem has gotten worse, not better. Noah Samson has become better friends with Bad Empanada, having him on his charity stream and even facilitating and moderating a conversation between Bad Empanada and Hassan Piker, further normalizing Bad Empanada. For those of you who don't know, I think since this video was created, Bad Empanada claimed responsibility for harassing the Jewish creator Ethan Klein, and also took, he's probably lying, but took credit for sending skulls to his house and calling Child Protective Services on the creator Ethan Klein in order to harass him using the law. So, and then with the don't want to fight people during the left, okay? I'm guilty of this as well. For those of you who don't remember, PV was working with Vosh and working with Destiny. And Vosh had the horse lolicon controversy probably about a year before the election. In a month prior, I had just grilled Queeman and Chud Logic for platforming food shops, who was like an unapologetic lolicon consumer. And I basically grilled the fuck out of them because I felt like they were playing footsie with parts of their community that thought that it was like normal and funny. And so I got called a hypocrite because I didn't make content criticizing Vosh, and I continued to work with PV despite the fact that they were continuing to work with PV. I don't have really a problem with people making pragmatic choices about politics in order to get an electoral result. I understand that, but you should still know what people's like stances are on certain topics. And yeah, Lolicon's gross. In case you had any doubt, Lolicon is gross. You shouldn't consume it. It's bad for your brain. It's bad for your soul. First Wave Negativity says something interesting, though, which is reminder that our brain is optimized for false negatives. If you think everything will kill you, you are more likely to survive. Always doubt your instincts. No, see, this is what I don't like. Okay, this is what I don't like. Trust but verify, I think, is a better way to when it goes with your instincts, right? Your instincts can't be wrong, or can be wrong. So you should always verify your instincts, but you should also understand that your instincts are what have led you to survive for hundreds of thousands of years. So if you feel like something is off, then extricate yourself from the situation and then analyze what you think was off and then see if you were correct about the situation. Don't do the opposite of your instincts. That's what actually drives me crazy, man. Like, there's this hyper rationalization within liberalism and also within DGG, because I think Steven has emphasized it, to the point that you're effectively saying, like, I'm having an instinct about something. I have an impulse that says something is off, but I'm going to ignore it because I can't articulate a perfect rationalization for why I feel the way I feel. I think that's like a horrible mentality. I don't know what you guys are doing. That's crazy pants to me. LB says, and control women in society, but who cares about 3rd century goat herders thought about sex and women? Not this girl, says LB. LB is my resident independent progressive who I love to spar with every day in chat. LB, would you say that it's good to have sex with 1 billion people and catch a bunch of STDs and have a bunch of unwanted kids, or it's better to have sex with somebody you love and then have like a few kids that you actually take care of? My answer, because I'm not going to be able to catch up with chat in order to read your response, is that having sex with one person that you love and having a few kids that you actually take care of is better than getting 1 billion STDs and having 1 billion kids you don't take care of. And so we can absolutely make value judgments about what people do with their bodies. And not only that, you should be controlled. Society controls what women do to some degree, but society controls what men do to some degree. You think I don't have an impulse to slap every single person in the face who pisses me off? I 100% do. but my instincts have been tempered by society. Is society creating some kind of oppressive structure where my desire to slap people who drive poorly is now being controlled, and this is some form of oppression? It's fun to me to fantasize that that is the case, but I ultimately have to concede that me walking around all day slapping people in the face who piss me off is probably not good for me, and it's probably not good for society. You should be controlled. Leonidas Vazouris, my favorite Greek, says, everything I join after the stream started, it's always the wildest topics. My apologies. It's our liberal agenda, sorry. I know, dude, you're trying to infect me with your liberal stuff. TY says, bros yapping about yapping now. Listen, TY, I already friendly fired somebody early in chat. Okay, so I'm gonna say you're gonna get a pass this time. But what I'm gonna tell you, and what I'm gonna tell DGG, is use proper nouns. Okay, say Rob's Media is yapping about Eden yapping, because if I see shit like this, and if I see it repeatedly, and then it's in reference to me, I'm gonna kick you the fuck out. I don't need you, right? I got my own stream to build. We're at like 130. We're bouncing between 130 and 150. There's plenty of DGGers who are coming in. They're like, yeah, it's okay, I'll hang out. And then there's some other people who are like, this isn't for me, and that's totally fine. But I'm not gonna, tolerate fucking people throwing tomatoes in my own stream. Fuck you. Val says sodomy is kind of gay. Agreed. Rube Duke says, be you, bro. I'm here for it. Excellent. Well, you and me, Rube Duke. You and me against the world, okay? Maxim Sarik says, which Warhammer 40k group would be most into sodomy? Slanesh, the Emperor's Children. Thank God for penicillin. You should. Vosh fan says, Nick Fuentes is more charismatic than all the Breadtube combined and informative. He called every step leading to this Iran war on October 8th, while Destiny was still learning to find Israel on a map. For those of you who don't know, Vosh fan is not a Vosh fan. He's a Nick Fuentes fan. First Wave Negativity says, ban everyone who asks, why is he talking about X? Low decouplers love conspiring about motive instead of engaging with the topic. True. I'm going to find one more, then we're getting back to the topic. No Nope Okay says, Counterpoints. To my knowledge, Jewish providence is matriarchal, at least when it comes to proving Jewishness. If a child was born from a Jewish woman, they are a Jew. Paternity isn't considered. Yeah, but they still encourage, number one, in-group marriage, where Jews tend to marry Jews. I'm sure they make exceptions as needed. But then also, they tend to be heterosexual and monogamous. I'm sure if you go to the Old Testament, there's probably a polygamist, like I think like Abraham was, I don't know if Abraham was polygamous, but I think there's plenty of Jewish leaders who were polygamous. But I think throughout history, they evolved into the heterosexual monogamous model compared to degenerate pagans.
5. The Crybullies. Many of these creators make content poking fun at and criticizing others they dislike. Though what I've noticed is that when these guys get backlash themselves, they plead innocence and act the victim. This is so common that I literally have loads of examples. The first one I'll bring up being from Noah, who made a hit piece on Vosh and then debated him. Noah came across as spineless and couldn't properly debate against any of Vosh's points, and then took the video down. He then put the video back up once the hate died down and made another. Ever since then, he's declined to do another debate, still mulling over how badly Vosh whooped his ass. Jeez, imagine losing a debate to someone who jerks off to images of little girls. Now, with Jake Doolittle, he'd get loads of backlash on his H3 video, making an Instagram story after Ethan teased a new podcast episode. He'd use death threats to bait sympathy, as if every big YouTuber doesn't get them. Ethan was actually debating not covering Jake's video, but Jake still kept the video up until an hour into the podcast.
Oh, he just privated it. Well, it's too late, bro.
Oh,
Too
is
late.
it now?
That's true. No, it's too late. It's too late, Jake.
Oops. Oh my
You
God.
had all 3 fucking
God.
weeks to do it, man. He's watching, I'm assuming.
Yeah, probably.
Jake, you had 3 weeks, and every comment on the video was like, this is a bad take. Social media, this is a bad take. Nobody was down with it. And it took him until now, for some reason, when I'm here actually defending myself. Like, bro, you have a public video up with like 125,000 views, and people that aren't familiar with me and my show can take away a really nasty impression of me. So of course I have every single right to come here and respond. And
I
the
took
fact
it
that
down.
you just
okay?
took it down now is not going to save you, brother. You might as well just bring it back up.
Public that shit.
I recommend you watch this segment. It's 3 hours of Ethan satisfyingly destroying Jake. It took Jake over a week to make an apology, where he gives no context and says a bunch of cliche gobbledygook.
My intention was to stand up for a specific group of people, but instead I came across as an asshole. I didn't consider how my words would affect others, and for that I'm very sorry. I've also come to realize that no amount of explanation can undo the impact of that video, and so for the discomfort or hurt that it caused, I also apologize.
He took his original down, though I managed to archive it on my second channel. He then placed a copyright takedown request, which he did have the right to do, though it's obvious he did this because he wanted the drama that he started to go away. When he took his apology video down a month ago, the same thing happened. Though when he placed the takedown request, I noticed that he put it back up. Yes, this guy was going to quietly take it down, though when I caught it, he decided to undo that. What a coward, man. These guys always make the lousiest apologies, where they try to take responsibility for as little as possible, until that gets them more hate. This happened with Zayn, who made various tweets only apologizing for the most egregious points he made, like when he spread false rape threat claims made by Sneeko towards Brandon Buckingham.
He is friends with Brandon Buckingham, a gun YouTuber who has been accused of threatening rape.
Though he's stuck by many of the other claims made, like that Mudahar is transphobic for the Keppel's thumbnail. Zayn would then rant on Discord about the hate, effectively getting off social media after deleting the video. I find this funny because he was talking about how he was low on money since his videos barely get views anymore, and he hasn't uploaded in 3 months. Then we get to Nick, who should get the world record for making the most apologies to a single case of drama. There's at least 5 I can think of, with the most concrete being the one he uploaded in January. He finally fully admits to fucking up in regards to the SuperMega drama, and shows regret towards the other mean-spirited videos he's made. Remember, this guy spent months avoiding responsibility, and only made this as a last-ditch effort to regain some of his audience. After Nick's most recent apology, which he made on his 3rd channel, Ethan would go live on Twitch and get asked about it. He gets immediately angry, and basically pushes all the blame regarding the SuperMega controversy to Nick.
People were praising him for the vid. Yeah, annoying commentary watchers and liars were saying this is such a good video because you apologized to the guys that I like. And apologized for, you know, hurting their feelings, I guess. He literally apologized for playing the gif of fucking Matt Watson getting punched in the face. You're really apologizing for that? He's a rape apologist.
And by the way, the rape in this drama is allegedly a boyfriend and a girlfriend having a sexual liaison, her not wanting to do oral, him asking for it, her doing it, and him being too rough. That's the alleged rape.
Play it 10 times, 100 times. I can't be friends with people who are that, like, easy to fold. I can't trust people like that.
Ethan, that's you. Dude, remember the Alex Rosen video? When you got shit for that, you made a Twitter thread basically victimizing yourself and whining about people jokingly calling you a pedo. Yet you have a history of loosely calling.
All right, back to chat, just because you guys are more entertaining than the actual content. Although Rob's Media did do a good job. I'll be summarizing it towards the end, but you know, I just want to say that chat is where the crazy fight is happening. So First Wave says, actually, I feel like the Federal Reserve interest rate should be higher. Actually, we should just make it so regular people feelings don't have impact over important things. First Wave negativity, that's the most Republican shit I've ever heard in my entire life. So back when words had meaning, Democrat, the term Democrat had demos in it, the people. And if you look at it historically, they didn't root their line of argumentation within the Republic of the United States and the Constitution of the United States. They rooted it in the well-being and the will of the people and all that kind of stuff. That was their line of argumentation. And back when words had meaning, Republicans were people who believed in representative democracy because they believed that the average person was stupid. Now, they use this in order to forward social conservative and fiscal conservative arguments, some of them good and some of them bad. But that's the most Republican shit on the planet, is getting representatives who are actually intelligent, who actually understand the issues in order to vote on and create policy that actually helps the United States of America. So thank you for being a anime PFP liberal destiny shitlib while effectively arguing for conceptual republicanism. I appreciate it. Whatever 4690 says, these lefties are basically spoiled brats who don't give a fuck about anyone but themselves. I mean, I am seeing a trend that it seems to be like Nepo babies, right? Maxime Sarik says, I don't give too much of a shit what people do behind closed doors with consenting adults. Exactly. I think that you will get infinitely more people to support gay marriage and gay relationships if you appeal to their sense of freedom. Vosh fan says, wants to see two... Well, wait. Okay, he agreed with me, though, so I'll try to make this as unvulgar as possible. Vosh fan says, everyone wants to see two girls kissing, but doesn't want to see two dudes kissing. Destiny going on Fresh and Fit and being surprised when every girl on the panel... Well, that was mean. You didn't need to be mean. We got the point, though. Whatever says, how can you be an incel with a wife and kids? I mean, yeah, it's a bad talking point. All right, scrolling. W says, at Counterpoints, but the ick still exists. That being said, one of my most controversial opinions is that most normies are cucks. They're just into sharing their partner with women, not dudes. Well, okay, but I think the thing there is that there's no threat from a chick, right? Because a chick can't get your chick pregnant. That kind of thing. First Wave says, you can't argue that repulsion is sufficiently to justify a position using an example that's bad for reasons other than repulsion. You need to address the cases. It's not the case. No, I don't. You're saying that I need to do things in order to like achieve some kind of social result. No, I don't. My result is already the default. If I talk about eating poop, 99% of the world checks out of the conversation. If you keep talking about eating poop, they're going to assume that you're some kind of freak who eats poop. If we're talking about incest or something like that, like Steven does, which is crazy. He doesn't do it anymore, but obviously that used to be one of his like litmus tests for intelligence. There's actually this really funny clip. I'm not going to bring it up. I think his name was Dantes, but he was like a community member and he was brain rotted in the DGG sphere. And so he thought that the incest, line of argumentation was like a great way to test whether or not people around him were intelligent. And so he walked around his high school just talking to people about incest. And you know what happened? Do you think like everybody in the high school was like, oh my God, that's crazy. You're so nuanced and so intelligent, Dantes. We should make you the king of all the smart people in school. Do you know what he's known as now in his high school? The incest guy. They assumed that he wanted to bang his family members because he talked about it so much. And do you know what he's going to be at the 10-year reunion? In the 20-year reunion? He's going to be the incest guy, right? So you're saying that I have to make like all these justifications for why bad behaviors are bad. And the truth is, no, I don't. If I feel like it, I can go into supporting lines of argumentation if I feel like social taboos or norms are changing and that the taboo needs to be reinforced. Then I can go in and make the lines of argumentation. But the truth is that you're so DGG pilled, you're so lost in the sauce of rationalism that you don't understand that most people base their argumentation not purely off of rationality, but also off of emotion. Senpati says, what if a PDF is a bioengineered pyro fox from the Andromeda cluster? Pretty sure that's enough oppression points to do the... Yeah. The oppressor stuff is very cringe. LB says, stop giving people health advice and mind your business. No, LB, I won't. I'll keep giving people advice all the time. I'll be annoying as shit. Mega Zero says, Counterpoints. Thank you. Well, thank you, Mega Zero. You and me against the world. Short Stack Goblin says, Russia has elections, baby. You'll have some kind. Yeah, exactly. LB says, Connor, your conservatives moved so far right, you turned 180 degrees. You tell me one AOC policy that you disagree with. Let's see. Does AOC have a policy, a party platform? She used to say that she liked socialism. I already don't like that. Ocasio-Cortez policy summary. AOC's platform. Medicare for all. I don't agree with Medicare for all. Guarantee healthcare for all people, curb costs, and improve long-term health. That I can agree with. I don't agree with Medicare for all. Medicare for all is a single-payer, single-administrator system. I want a multi-payer, multi-administrator system similar to like Germany, right? There's a base level of healthcare that everybody gets, but if you want high-end healthcare, you can pay for it. Housing is a human right. Nope. Protect current occupants, repair public housing, and build new affordable housing. I'll repair public housing and build new affordable housing. That's cool, but it's definitely not a human right. And then I don't want to protect current occupants if that means that we're giving people extended squatters' rights where they can just not pay rent for 2 or 3 years and have the government backstop them not paying their bills. Nope. A peace economy. Stop investing in the business of wars, invest in peace and diplomacy. I want to invest in peace and diplomacy, but I also love war. Power abhors a vacuum. I'm a military industrial complex shill. I love that we're putting lasers into C-130 gunships. I love that we have lasers on destroyers. I love that we spent $1 billion on railguns. I love that we can hit, a gnat. We can hit a gnat's wing at 7 miles with a fucking railgun from a destroyer. I love that. I think that's based. Justice for workers and small businesses. Rebuild the unions. Yes. Invest in people, not corporations. Yes. And a federal jobs guarantee. No. Real public safety. Instead of investing in mass incarceration, we need to invest in the most vulnerable members of our society. No. I'm okay with mass incarceration as a stopgap. We do need to invest in the most vulnerable members of our society, but I'm going to be way more draconian about my investment than you are. You're not going to like my solutions. Honor in immigration. It is past time to make undocumented individuals full members of the country they call their home and abolish ICE. No, fuck off. Not even going to explain it. So far, we've covered AOC's platform, and I've disagreed with like 70% of it. So no, even on the things where we agree in the ends, we do not agree on the means. So no, you're saying that like, I want good things for people. Yeah, no shit. Everybody wants good things for people. We disagree on how to achieve good things for people. So no, wrong.
Calling others pedos.
They think that I'm mature enough to have a 9-year-old daughter.
And be a pedophile too, because you look like a pedophile.
So
Ethan is just as spineless as Nick, but he has more of a fake tough guy persona, as seen anytime he DMs a creator he doesn't like. About a week after that Nick stream, Ethan would go live again, with Lex this time, where they'd basically get rated by lyrics. I was watching this live and had a bit of fun trolling them myself.
You and Vosh to date. What? Why would you say that? He's a pedophile.
They basically get riled up at every little joke someone makes, acting as if they have the moral high ground while not realizing everyone is wasting their time.
Still think you should watch the Big Bungie video on you. Would wipe the slate clean with this chat. That video has fucking revenge porn in it. It is a deranged, like, fucking delusion made by a 4chan basement dweller. I'm not watching that. You're sick in the head if you think there's fucking good critiques in it. And if you want to fucking make the points, repeat them. Regurgitate like you do all these dumbass questions. Based Bungie. My favorite YouTuber, Bazy Bungie. It's so funny to see you see. Dude, you haven't made a single point. I hope you're proud of yourself. But you haven't.
Yes, that's Lex's real laugh. She got that Kamala Harris hyena screech.
Oh my god, you're so stupid!
Is it? Wait, I'm
you are so
getting
fucking
gaslit.
stupid. Average intelligence of my fucking haters, dude. Right fucking here.
All these losers in chat need to go get a fucking job.
Oh, it was the wrong word. I
Y'all are
focused
some
on
lame-ass
poking.
limp blurp motherfuckers.
Instead of making a proper video debunking the hate he gets, he'd rather spend hours of his time debating random shitters. He'd end up privating this VOD, but archives do exist. Now lastly, I want to briefly cover Vosh's defenders slowly leaving the internet, or at least trying to.
All right. Well, we'll watch the Vosh orbit implosion momentarily. But once again, chat is being interesting. Sacred Snow says, how do you feel about the Greg Palast reporting saying there was significant bad vote trashing that swung the election for Trump? Something like 3 million votes in primarily black military communities were thrown out on weird technicalities like incorrect dating, if I remember right. That's more than what I think of when there's no more elections. They'll just do Putin-esque shit. Okay. then you remember how there was this big push in conservative circles to monitor vote counting? Just need to do the same thing. I still think we're going to have elections. I still think that it's going to be close. It's always been 51-49 in the United States between Democrats and Republicans. I still think that Trump is doing so bad that no matter what the cheating is, there will be a midterm sweep, particularly if he engages in military activity in Iran, because that'll be viewed as such a massive betrayal of his base, not to mention all the impact from tariffs and all that kind of crap. First Wave says the most individualistic societies are basically better in every way. If you compare apples to apples, rich conservative societies have fewer children than rich progressive societies. I don't know if that's true, specifically, like conservative versus progressive, because almost all progressive societies have a negative birth rate, and there's plenty of poor conservative societies that actually have more kids. But I mean, I'll agree in general that maximal human freedom is good. Jade says, I want less of these cherry-picked left-wing, centrist, right-wing people are cringe and more, I wonder whether there are important core ideas in the left, center, right, ignore all the bad. Well, I mean, we try to do that, but we do that by criticizing stupid drama, so I don't know if I'll have enough meat on the bone for you. Eric Dom says, I'd argue liberalism is the most evo-psych ideology since it allows so many lifestyles, and over time, whatever works, including reproductive success, survives. I agree, Eric Dom. I think that liberalism is the best governing philosophy, but it is insufficient by itself. You need to have a pronatal, mildly conservative culture in the background in order to stabilize society while having maximal freedom so as many people as possible can live the lives that they want to pursue. Vosh fan says, you covered on your secret recordings red line, but if Rose turns out to have been underage when Destiny started sexting her, will you finally disavow him? That depends on whether or not he knew, right, Vosh fan? So number one, let's be real. Let's go full screen. There is an old clip of Steven where Steven says, it is cringe for me, this is a quote, it is cringe for Steven to be 27 or 28 and date somebody who is freshly 18, because that person might as well be 15 with the amount of emotional maturity that they're going to have. I think that he was fundamentally correct in that assessment. I think that if you're super like old, like me, dude, I'm almost 40. If you're dating an 18-year-old, there's only one reason why you're doing that, and that's for carnal reasons, right? That is because you think they are physically attractive. It has nothing to do with their personality. It has nothing to do with a long-term relationship. It has nothing to do with having kids. It has nothing to do with any of that kind of shit. And I am pronatal. I do think that most human beings who are capable of having kids should have kids, right? I think it's a rich part of the human experience that anchors and roots you and gives you something cool to do in middle age. And it also gives you an awesome, interesting, crazy familial dynamic that keeps you entertained and doesn't allow you to be an emotionally stunted, sex-crazed maniac for decades upon decades and decades. Stephen and I disagree on this, right? So Stephen, despite having made that statement previously, obviously said at some point, well, I only have one life and I want to enjoy it as maximally as possible. And I got shitloads of cash and I only have as many social responsibilities as I choose. Therefore, I'm going to goon. That's what Stephen said to himself at some point. And so he started gooning and he's paid social consequences for his gooning. But you're asking me specifically, if Rose was 17 or 16, I don't think she was 16. I think a lot of people have only insinuated that she might be 17. But if she's 17 and lied about her age, will I disavow Stephen? No. Because if he didn't know, he didn't know, and he's following a bad line of reasoning and argumentation that I already disagree with. However, if there is a message that's verified that says like, oh yeah, I'm 16, lol, and Steven's like, nice, let's do this, then yeah, of course, I'm going to condemn the shit out of him. Because you as a almost 40-year-old man shouldn't be flirting with 16-year-olds. That's fucking psycho shit. Grassroots Hegemon gave out 10 memberships. What a fucking Chad. Vokes became a member by themselves. What a Chad. Grassroots for $20. I had a bunch of roommates, but one was the homeowner. Sorry. Grassroots says, I had a bunch of roommates, but one was the homeowner's younger brother when I got the first big boy job, and he was 22 and brought his 18-year-old girlfriend over, and I was 24. And right away, I was like, oh, this thing is a baby. Yeah. Lots of 18-year-olds are very emotionally unintelligent. So here's another difference too. Let's say that there's a 30-year-old guy. He's not very successful in dating, and he meets an 18-year-old girl, but she is wildly mature, and she's like more like a 25-year-old in the way that she conducts herself. She works her job. She's loyal. She's got a good friend group. She's got a good family group. She's busting ass, getting through school and all that kind of shit. And he's just smitten. He's 30, she's 18, but she is wildly mature. And he's like, I am going to dedicate my life to this person, and I am going to make them, the cornerstone of my life. I don't give a fuck. You do you. 12-year age gap. Obviously, it's kind of weird, kind of a little bit, a little bit off, but you're dedicating your life to that person. Whereas, let's call it spawn camping, where a 18-year-old turns 18 years and 1 hour, and then you're a 40-year-old man, and you're like, hey, what's up? 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 Let's hang out. Let's hang out. Let's hang out. Let's hang out. And then you just spawn camp a bunch of 18-year-olds as they come on the scene. Then I think you're emotionally and sexually stunted. Just being real. Just sharing my opinion. Vosh fan says Shu is base as fuck. It's unsurprising to me that a Nick Fuentes fan would think that Shu on Head was based. Anyways, let's read like 2 more. And then we'll get going. You could also write analysis correctly. I don't know what that's in reference to. No nope. Timed out. Lol. Who's timed out? Is Connor saying only conservatives are good? No. Catching strays over here? No. Sorry. LB says, Connor, you have a lot of content about lolly porn, Nazis, and trans. What would Freud say? That I need to exorcise these demons by homicide? I don't know. Paul said fragged a DGGer, but no argument, sus. No, it was that I think he was saying the DGGer I fragged. I think he said that that's a very shallow analysis, and I thought he was chatting shit. And so I hit him with the timeout, but then I realized that based off of the time in chat, he might have been saying that, what is it? The Hills Have Eyes had a shallow analysis because it was saying that mutant, freak, rapist, cannibals were minorities. So that was my fault. I fragged a guy. He didn't deserve it. First Wave Negativity says, the people who you're banning are not engaging with the ideas or the necessary logical endpoint of the idea that discuss response is sufficient justification. Well, listen, it doesn't. The only reason why I'm apologizing, I'm okay with trusting my disgust response. My chat will probably be better without people who don't use proper nouns doing comments in my chat. So if I frag a bunch of R slurs, but then I also frag like an innocent, my chat in the long term is still going to be fine, right? However, because I try to be as rational as I can be, I feel guilty for fragging somebody who didn't deserve it. Roog Doog for $10 says, okay, but doesn't it have to be the extremes? There are children, people in committed Okay, but it doesn't have to be the extremes. There are childless people in committed relationships. There are people with children who are cheating on each other. Sure. Having children doesn't make you a good person. And not having children doesn't make you a bad person. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that I'm trying to promote in general, pronatal culture. C-Dub says, getting one guide by a guy 20 minutes in the future, based. All right, back to the content. Y'all are having too much fun at my expense. It is funny, though. So good job spinning me up and making me look crazy. I hope you're having fun.
We got Keffels, who deleted her last few YouTube videos and has been silently streaming since May. Then she pretty much decided to leave the internet after messages leaked of Xander Hall threatening to beat her and her orbiters to death, all because they have small personal disagreements, and the fact that Keffels was friendly with Shu on Head in the past. It was also revealed that Xander Hall abused his editor and didn't pay them. sticking by Keffals even after the Muda video.
Sorry, real quick. This is more important than the content. Cbum27 says, Steelman the position that Dune is the best sci-fi setting. I'll go ahead and do that immediately. Everyone steals from Dune. Everyone steals from Dune. Almost every major science fiction IP, except for Star Wars and Star Trek, which are obviously huge. But so many fanfic IPs, so many IPs in general, have a Luddite anti-technology revolution. So many of them have an emperor. Obviously, I'm thinking about 40K, but they have an omnipotent galactic ruler. So many of them have energy shielding technology. So many of them have the reintroduction of melee weapons. So many of them have the reintroduction of like rail or magnet-based ballistic weapons. Everyone steals from Dune. That's why I think that 40K is my favorite setting, but Dune is so obviously foundational to the concept of sci-fi that it's undeniable that it's had an influence in sci-fi that's going to last centuries, if not millennia.
Was Tipster, a former commentary streamer who's married yet likes to hit on other women. He not only defended Keffals, but also defended Vosh's lolly obsession. He ended up removing all the videos on his channel after the backlash, but then put back up the videos he made after aligning himself with Breadtube. Finally, we get to Jalen, someone I've surprisingly never talked about on his channel. She's extensively a lolcow known for constantly getting themselves into drama, apologizing for it, threatening to leave the internet, and then coming back after a day. This has become known as the Jalen cycle, usually starting with them picking beef on a commentary channel or calling a black guy the gamer word.
No one else should care.
I find it just really funny that they say on Twitter, yeah, all transphobic people are pedophiles, and just being openly transphobic towards Ringo.
That's not being transphobic. I can make 41% jokes. Also, Ringo's also literally making the same jokes. Like, what the fuck you talking about, nigga? Like, what the fuck? Are you retarded?
Ooh.
Like,
you're not black. You're not black, Jalen. You're not allowed to say
To be
that.
fair,
You're not allowed to say that word. Are you
either.
racist? I am black.
Jesus,
I am
we're
black.
all
actually.
hypocrites.
Yet Jalen will have a problem with people making trans jokes. She recently defended Vosh and Keffals, though the straw that finally broke the camel's back was her downplaying the Ava Tyson situation, which finally got her to leave the internet and rename her channel to Inactive. Many breadtubers rely on flimsy arguments that can easily be debunked, and when they do get debunked, they throw a hissy fit about it and act innocent. If you're going to shit talk on the internet, be ready for others to shit talk you. But many of these guys have no backbone and can't even take jokes. And that leads to my last point. 6. They're safe edgy. This is definitely the least important point, but it's something I've been wanting to talk about. I've noticed that many breadtubers are safe edgy, as in, they target their jokes and quips at certain people, yet will get backlash from their audience if they did it to others. This term began after a trend was noticed, the influx of memes poking fun of British and French people. Yet if you make jokes like this towards other people, especially those in non-white countries, you'll get shit on by breadtubers who will try to label you as problematic or something. Many of these guys don't even know what safe edgy is.
That being said, certain personalities do gravitate towards certain styles, like this safe sleazy kind of thing. First we had safe edgy, then safe horny, and now safe sleazy to finish the trifecta.
Why does he put a map of Europe for safe edgy? What does that mean? Wait, is that even Europe, or is it? Why is there a big gap there? Is this like Pangea or something? Am I tripping? What does this mean? Okay, looks like Germany's missing, and then some other stuff. France. So is that like the countries they invaded? Well, no, Germany invaded Poland, and it's still there. Look, someone help.
This part of the video should help you, Noah. Safe edgy is basically comedy that appears risque, yet would never actually get you into trouble for saying it. As said in the section about fake nice guys, these breadtubers only make fun of the appearances of straight men, or those who politically disagree with them. But, let's say, if they were to make fun of a trans person's appearance, they get eaten alive by their own audience. They basically trap themselves into a box they can't escape. He's not a breadtuber per se, but this sort of thing happened with Ethan Klein a few years ago. On the rare occasion he said something actually edgy, he'd get crucified for it. I mean, Jake Doolittle was part of that audience, and he got offended over some jokes Ethan made about chronic illnesses.
Few things. All right, checking in with chat because I do feel like the piece is wrapping up effectively. No Nope says, about your sci-fi channel, promise me you'll watch Star Trek Deep Space Nine and we'll get a sub. You know, weirdly enough, Star Trek is the one franchise that I did not prepare for, where it kind of fits into the narrative of like the dark age of technology. but I don't know if it fully fits. So I'm not. I like more grim, dark action horror shit. I like Aliens. I like The Expanse. I like Predator. I like Pandorum, Event Horizon, Avatar. If you actually focus on the grim, dark parts, and the Corpo Marines, I think can actually be pretty hardcore and interesting. Killzone, all that stuff. So I can't. Star Trek is almost like too noble bright for me. It's too kind. Boat Knight says Alien and Aliens can take place in Warhammer, perhaps xenomorphs, or they're just their own alien species that we have to kill before we spread to the stars. The Lost Coyote says it's based of the Sawney Bean legend from Scotland. Okay. Book says lesbian hate is different from gay men hate, though. It seems to be more based in jealousy and not the ick factor. Yep. Fung Dark. Fung Dark is a routine chatter who does help with, he does come up with bangers. And so rape and cannibalism are the language of the unheard. Bro. Nice. All right. Scrolling. Did I see Xander Hall? Did somebody say Xander Hall? Lost Coyote says, real question, are the bugs from Ender's Game actually the Tyranids? No. They're their own race. Bear in mind, you have to understand that in the Warhammer prehistory, we purged dozens of alien empires, maybe hundreds of alien empires, in order to become the preeminent species in the Milky Way galaxy. Like humanity during the dark age of technology spread and colonized throughout the stars, but it goes back and forth on whether or not we tolerated or killed aliens. But during the Age of Strife, when the galaxy fell, effectively chaos, but also predatory alien races ripped apart galactic humanity. And so after that, humanity just became extremely xenophobic to the point that like even peaceful alien civilizations, they'll just genocide. Because it's easier to just genocide alien factions than it is to tolerate them and maintain diplomacy. Danny Dunn says, Xander Hall, haven't heard that name in a while. Yeah, poor guy. Covering Nick. Justin, we haven't covered him yet. We will momentarily. Good morning, Justin. Good to see you. Peter says, what's this stream? I don't know. Read the title, bro. I know I'm being a smartass 20 minutes later, but holy shit. All right, last one, and then we'll get back into it. Vogue says, sometimes you got to trust your shivers. Can't tell you how many times trusting the ancient reptilian brain saved my life. Yeah. Anybody who served in first response, anybody who served in the military, I think that's actually part of the communicative disconnect is, no offense, DGG, but I don't think a lot of you have served in first response to the military or anything like that. Like, primal instinct will save your life. So, yeah. Backwards, bro. Verify, then trust. Nope. All right.
Leading up to this video, I was a huge fan of the H3 podcast. When I was at my sickest.
So leading up to this, he was a huge fan.
Right.
The minute I brushed across something he cares about a little bit, brushed upon it, now he's done.
All bets are off.
I'm exposing him.
Too far. Something that I really want to talk about with this topic is that safe edginess can exist on both sides of the political extremes. I mean, one side normalizes jokes about religion, white people, masculinity, while the other side normalizes jokes about racial and sexual identity. The opposing side will get offended by the other's jokes, yet will make equally edgy material relating to what they deem socially acceptable. I think you should make jokes about any of this, as long as it's a joke. You can't be talking about why America deserves 9/11 unironically and present that as a joke, because there's no punchline.
America deserved 9/11. I can't disavow facts, man. I can't disavow reality. That's not how that works, bro. Like,
even ironically, it's not funny because there's nothing else to the joke. That's why Shane Dawson's old comedy isn't funny. There's nothing to the joke besides doing something edgy. Even ignoring the safe edgy problem, I still wouldn't find these guys funny. Much of their humor comes from them being snarky or passive aggressive, which only works if you're likable. If you've been paying attention to this video, you'll notice that these guys are the opposite of likable. They seem pretentious and all-knowing, never being able to make fun of themselves and have self-awareness. I mean, at the slightest joke at their expense, they get furious. I mean, here's Nick, making multiple different tweets, raging over the most tame TikTok comment in existence. Though there is one Breadtuber I do find funny, Ryan Beard. I I mentioned Ryan Beard at the end there because for the past 8 months, I've noticed his fair criticism of many of the other BreadTubers in this video. Now, I'm not a big fan of Ryan. In fact, I disagree with a few of his takes. Though at the end of the day, that's bound to happen. Not everyone is going to have the same thought process as you. What really matters is your ability to argue for what you stand for. I appreciate Ryan now because he's the only BreadTuber I've seen actively call out the rash and improper behavior of his peers. In pretty respectable ways, mind you. I first noticed this with Jake Doolittle's H3 hit piece, as Ryan left a constructive comment explaining why the video was bad.
Nice. That's I've noticed this in commentary. They've warmed up to Ryan Beard, where, you know, obviously he releases like Destiny hit piece or whatever, but they warmed up to him because he went from like the snide, educate yourself, you know, lefty to just being like, okay, well, I'm just going to say what I think is true. And I think that's charismatic in a way where even if you disagree, you can at least see somebody's logic, and that makes you more likable. Herkimer says, as a tepid DGGer, I'm enjoying the streams. Well, good, man. That's what I want. And I'm just going to put my cards on the table, okay? We're bouncing between 130 and 150 people throughout the stream. I'm sure some DGG liberals and progressives stream in. They see that I'm saying chud shit, or they're just not entertained by the essay and then they dip out. That's totally fine. My content isn't going to be for everybody, and I don't expect to have like a one-to-one overlap with DGG. I expect DGG to be more liberal and progressive than I am. But what I would like is if the liberals and progressives who at least think that my analysis is fair and I'm rooted in truth and like contending with the ideas, if they want to come over and they want to fight out the ideas, I perfectly welcome that. What I don't want, though, which, you know, we've dealt with a little bit today, is there will be people who will just come in and say snide remarks, but they're saying snide remarks because they want Destiny, right? They want Steven. They just want a Steven clone. And I'm not going to be a Steven clone. I wouldn't even try to be a Steven clone. I'm me. So you either like the content or you don't. You know what I'm saying? Whew. Scrolling. Vosh fan says Jews tend to be heterosexual. O'Connor, I'm talking about medieval Jewry. I'm not talking about modern atheist, hedonist Jews. That's not what I'm talking about. First Wave said, dude, it's so hot today and it's not even summer yet. I'm going to KMS. Well, you know, I'm in Florida, so I can sympathize. Stern Franklin said, Abraham had a concubine, Jacob had 2 wives and 2 concubines, David had 8 wives, Solomon had a lot of both. That's what I was trying to point out when I was saying that Old Testament Jewish history probably has a lot of polygamy in it. Sigrin says, Counterpoints. As a rural lib, been here all morning. Keep it up, brother. Would disagree with you, but those disagreements are in a healthy place and exist in reality. Appreciate it. Well, thank you, Sigrin. You're exactly who I'm talking about, who I want to retain as a viewer. We can disagree, and we can have interesting fights about those disagreements. I caught up with Rug Dude's donation. Thank you again for the donation, King. Rube Duke says, man, on stream, Google classical liberalism and tell me what you disagree with. You're a liberal, a real liberal, not a progressive. We need to reclaim base liberalism, not repaired conservatism. So hold on. Doing this, though, I can actually do this because I've done this before, not on stream. Classical liberalism it's going to be the economics. So we're actually going to read this because this will be more substantive than everything else we've engaged with so far. Classical liberalism is a political tradition and a branch of liberalism that advocates for free market and laissez-faire economics and civil liberties under the rule of law, with special emphasis on individual autonomy, limited government, economic freedom, political freedom, and freedom of speech. I'm okay with this. However, laissez-faire and free market. I'm all about the market. I'm all about letting people do stuff as maximally as possible, but there's got to be a fucking hammer somewhere. As an example, dogs, okay? I love dogs. If there's a puppy breeder who is just churning out puppies, not taking care of them, euthanizing the ones that are not desirable, abandoning and neglecting the ones that don't sell, but keeps churning out puppies because technically there's no legal prohibition, I think that person, that we should create laws and we should fucking hammer that piece of shit, right? So I'm not laissez-faire. I'm not pure free market. And I know that there's nefarious actors out there. Classical liberalism, contrary to progressive branches like social liberalism, looks more negatively on social policies, taxation, and the state involvement in the lives of individuals, and it advocates for deregulation. See, I already don't agree with that. Until the Great Depression and the rise of social liberalism, classical liberalism was called economic liberalism. Later, the term was applied as a retronym to distinguish earlier 19th century liberalism from social liberalism. By modern standards in the United States, the bare term liberalism often means social or progressive liberalism, but in Europe and Australia, the bare term liberalism often means classical liberalism. Classical liberalism gained full flow in the 18th century, building on ideas dating at least as far back as 16th century with Iberian, French, British, and Central European contexts, and it was foundational to the American Revolution and the American project more broadly. Notable liberal individuals whose ideas contributed to classical liberalism, including Locke, Quesnay, Jean-Baptiste Say, Montesquieu, Voltaire, Marquis du Condorcet, Thomas Paine, Thomas Malthus, and David Ricardo. That's way too many French people, by the way. That also makes me uncomfortable. It drew on classic economics, especially the economic ideas espoused by Adam Smith and The Wealth of Nations, and on a belief in natural law. In contemporary times, Murray Rothbard, Friedrich Hayek, Milton Friedman, Ludwig von Mises, Thomas Sowell, Walter E. Williams, George Stigler, Larry Amhart, Ronald Coase, and James Buchanan are seen as the most prominent advocates of classical liberalism. And I think Friedman is way too laissez-faire, as is Thomas Sowell. So yeah, bro, sorry to disappoint, but no.
Jake, being a pouty child, deleted this.
Thank you for the donation, though. Seriously. And thank you for a question that's insightful about ideology.
This comment and many others. Ryan would also call out Noah Samson for working a bad empanada, seeing him as a bad look. Then he'd criticize Keffels for trying to accuse Muda of being transphobic. When Gokanaro was discussing Zane's Wendigoon video, Ryan would show up in chat and rightfully criticize the guy, strangely agreeing with a Cheeto, which I thought could never happen.
See, this is the goated nature of a Gokanaro stream. We can have Ryan Beard and a Cheeto in the same fucking stream chat. Do you understand how universal this little experience is? This is like a cultural exchange, bro.
During Ethan's livestream meltdown, Ryan would chat on Lyric's stream.
Yo, what is this alliance? Is this Mr. Beard? It's Ryan Beard. Ethan needs to log off. He's clearly spiraling, but doesn't. What happened? Wait, did something happen to Ryan? Is this the real Ryan Beard? What happened to Ryan Beard since the last time I've seen him? Ethan needs to log off. He's clearly spiraling, but doesn't realize it. Him and Lex suck, though, so whatever. Did somebody hack his accounts? Or have I just completely been out of the loop on Mr. Beard? Mr. Beard. Ryan Beard. Him and Lex suck, though, whatever. What happened? I thought this guy was completely on like the SuperMega train. Maybe I just completely haven't been familiar with him. But this is this is an awesome chat message right here. He's clearly spiraling. I thought he was friends.
Dude. Also, this is funny, like Lyrics. I enjoyed his commentary. He has like a good commentary voice and he did drama videos. But since then, he's become a soft boy K-pop reviewer. I shit you not. This guy, Lyrics, so many girls and so many gays thought he was cute that he's like, oh my God, you know what I can do? I can make money listening to K-pop and giving half-assed normie takes and just listen to music for hours at a time. And as a result, apparently this dude has just been like raking it in. I have no idea. Like we'll go check his metrics in a second. I have no idea how he came up with that idea and how he came up with the idea to just start raking in cash from like gays, soft boys, and women who like soft boys. But he just started killing it, apparently. At least that's what I heard. We'll take a look at his metrics in a second. Wowman542 says, Dread, amazing. Elysium, amazing. Edge of Tomorrow, amazing. District 9, amazing. How are you guys forgetting about these recent sci-fi classics? I'm not. I am not. Sin Patty says it's TV, but The Expanse too. Dude, The Expanse, I think it drags in the 3rd and 4th season, but The Expanse seasons 1 and 2 and the last 2 or 3 seasons, I absolutely loved. Lost Coyote says Attack the Black's excellent too, but I don't know if you guys are into monster movies. Not so much, but you know, DM it to me and I'll take a look at it. And then I want to check lyrics as soft boy. Vosh fan says, as unvulgar as possible on a stream talking about Lolly. Well, dude, you know, Valor Media Networking, they actually have license to chop up all of this stuff. So I just don't want to say the most repulsive stuff in the most repulsive way possible. You know what I'm saying? First Wave says, I am way naturally aligned with Republicans. I like Mitt Romney over Obama, but the parties have reversed and now the Republicans are the idiot party. Based. We cooking.
This guy.
We cooking. First Wave, even though we've had some contentious back and forth, I hope you become a regular with that kind of fucking attitude. We need more people like you. What is the lyrics, right? I forget what he rebranded as, but I'm hoping if I look up his old name, then I'm hoping he'll pop up. Lyrics. Is this him? No, this is his old commentary stuff. I think it's under his normal name, Liam Donovan. Yeah, that's what it was. Liam Donovan. Yeah, dude, he started this in the past couple of months, and he's already at 114K subs, man. He is cooking. Look at these videos. 50, 70, 30, 105, 300, 156, 130, 75, 407, 173, 152, 320, 99. So it looks like he hit a peak, and then there's some things that ebb and flow. But overall, just being a soft boy, listening to music and doing layman LAYMAN music reviews has been paying off. So look at him.
So I put out a video prompt of the best YouTubers music.
I put out a video prompt of the best YouTubers music. Tell me what you guys want.
Example of like, this is probably the best YouTube.
So if you guys want a soft boy,
It wasn't talking. You don't understand. Video, actually, we got a sponsor.
here's your new soft boy. Have fun. Liam Donovan.
Big shout out to Ryan Beard. W. Him and Lex suck. Dude, let's fucking go. I'm not friends with Ethan anymore after he justified anti-Semitism and told me I was victim blaming when I got mad at Lex for lying about Nick is not green. Dude, let's fucking go. Dude, Ryan Beard is fucking spitting flames in the chat right now. I'm still just as much of a leftist, but Ethan makes other leftists look like freaks when he releases terrible videos, like the Alex Rosen one, so I have no desire to associate with him. Dude, based Ryan Beard. Hey man, I'll see you later, Ryan Beard. Don't worry though, if Ethan calls you a pedo, that just means that he wants you to get free therapy. Lol. All right, I need to stop. See you guys later. Have a good one, man.
This is why I'm starting to like Ryan. Even if you disagree with something he said, this guy has, morals. He has morals that he stands by and can actually interact positively with those who differ from him. In other words, he is actually a mature adult. And honestly, not all breadtubers are bad. Some of the others I failed to mention are just people I disagree with. You can criticize them for that, but they're not awful people. But like Ryan said, there are those like Ethan or couples that make them look bad, and the others on the side of the internet do a bad job at weeding them out. A lot of them are quiet on these topics, which only lets this madness continue for years to come. Even though many of the individuals I've discussed have had their reputations destroyed, they'll still try crawling back to regain relevance while acting like victims. They're just like the people they hate, spineless cowards that only care about their own reputation and the reputation of their political team, not realizing that they're doing harm to that team. Last thing I want to mention here is that Ryan is actually really funny. He can take risks with his comedy and is willing to embarrass himself for it. But that alone earned my respect. It's not easy to do that, and it results in some pretty entertaining content. Him filming a parody of Sienna May's apology is goated. Maybe this is what Nick should do for his 15th apology video. Anyways, I hope you guys really enjoyed this video, and leave suggestions below for anyone you want me to cover in the next episode of Idiot Influencers.
All right, Rob's Media. I'm not subscribed, but I'll subscribe for that, and I'll like it. Let's do a little summary, and then we'll engage with chat again. So, in summary, leftists are hypocrites and fake nice guys. It's not that big of a criticism. We're all hypocrites in some ways, but I would basically say, if you're like, you need to leave the transes alone, and you need to leave the gays alone, and you need to leave the fats alone, and then you start making fun of people because they're effeminate, You start making fun of people because they don't present in a stereotypically masculine or feminine way. You start, excuse me, you start making, excuse me. Oh my God, I almost killed myself by inhaling trail mix. If you make fun of people's aesthetics, people are going to call you a hypocrite. Complain about harassment, but weaponize their audiences. I mean, I've seen people do that. I think the prime example that pops into my mind from this video was Noah Samson saying that all of his audience should go spam comments in Xanderhall's chat, despite constantly talking about how mass harassment and flagging campaigns are bad. Obviously, that's cringe. Another one that's recent is the harassment that's gone towards Ethan Klein. So, obviously pretty cringe right there. I'm gonna go full screen so you can see my beautiful face. The next one is dehumanize opponents. We talked about what fascism actually is and how they overuse the word fascist. And then also team sports, where you refuse to call out people who are behaving badly on your side. Part of the reason why, I'm more right-wing Republican in a lot of my temperamental issues, but I also have a liberal bias as well. The reason why I punch left and punch right is because I'm trying to keep it some level of equitable. Cry bullying, Bad Empanada was brought up as an example. Keffels was brought up as an example. Vosh was brought up as an example. I'm sure we could go into the drama more, but I don't want to. Safe edgy is Anglophobia, so talking shit about Brits. I do that too, but I try not to do it as much because I do think that the Brits get a disproportionate amount of hate. And then white straight hate, calling people cracker, but freaking out whenever somebody says the N-word. Kind of like Hassan Piker, where he had this entire arc where he was using cracker as a slur to the point that he got banned off of Twitch. But then he also had this total freak out on Destiny several years ago because Destiny said that he uses the N-word in private and America deserved 9/11. Simping for terrorism. Yeah, total, absolute cringe, total counterproductive cringe. So that's the summary. I think Rob's Media did a good job describing why far lefties on the internet are a bunch of freaks and why we shouldn't respect them. End of rant. Now I'm going to engage with chat because chat's very funny. They've been pissing me off all day, but they've been pissing me off in a funny way. This super chat was sponsored by Xanderhall's PayPal account.